Grand Rising, everybody. Much love, much respect to everybody. We're going to start this off like we always do, playing some music and shouting out to people. Grand Rising. Welcome my brother Pete Blackfoot and my brother Alabama.
Peace, my brother. How you doing?
What's happening, Captain?
Alabama, peace, brother.
Doing good, brother. How you doing? Let's go. Let's start it off. Let's go.
Class in session, so it's time for you to get the notes. The quickest way to sell your soul is when you niggas vote. This shit I'm kicking is forbidden, better listen, bro. A politician preaching love is the biggest joke. See, what they do is use the shit as a tool. Got us focused on these fools and putting shit in our food. Fighting to free your mind is kinda hollow but true. The system make you a zombie if you follow the rules, so we rebel. But not too many live it to tell, till they find the cheat code using digital scales. Paradise is aborted when the mission is failed. Heaven and hell collide like prison and jail. And you don't need religion just to say you awake. You even dumber than you look, you think you came from an ape. Religion needs science, science need religion. One tell a story and the other paint the picture. But listen, nigga, if you dig a little deeper, you can find that little rabbit in the mother of the reaper. I'm the best for a reason. There's a message in the speaker. When the cosmos talking, that's a blessing from the ether. One day I met the devil for real and made a deal with him. Told him all I want is the money and kept it real with him. Came in the form of a thought, I couldn't build with him. Shit I was selling the fiends was really killing them. Your gun bars ain't much if your gat don't shoot. I'm strapped and bulletproof like the Batman suit. All it take is one snap to have my enemies killed. The laws in space and time, I could bend them at will. Yeah, I'm in the world that some of y'all have not seen, and living on the page that some of y'all cannot read. And right now they probably calling me cheap, cause I decided it's enough and now I finally speak. Tell you the truth, I don't trust people who cheat. It's deeper than having sex, you give birth to deceit. If you see where this is going, this is true as can be. If you lie to the ones you love, then you do it to me. The cold word is rainy night. Niggas get wet outside, but ain't no rain in sight. They wonder where this come from. Ascension when it's all done. No reason to believe in a God. When you become one, you understand. You could get it the same. Niggas will double cross you if you get them the fame. My soul ain't for sale just to get in the game. It's dangerous, homie, just remember the name.
Part 2. Grand Rising, everybody. Grand Rising.
Last of my people been driven over the United States for over 700 years, and I carried the Europe. I taught the Europeans until they're coming back.
They just wanna keep us asleep. I know this shit suck, but when the fuck when niggas wake up, I know this shit tough. Every other step you take, you get your foot stuck. Cause they go and show you the fly when some niggas pushed up. Religion is a part of the system, my nigga, listen. If you ain't got control of your soul, then you's a victim. The Pope all over the net with politicians. The same politicians who sleeping with little children. Time to make them pay for what they did to the youth. But freedom of speech is nothing when they censoring truth. You ain't gotta show shit when you live in the proof. Giving support to your oppressors, man, you niggas is goofs. Time to fight fire with fire, get on some nigga shit. Time to get back what they stole, all of our innocence. Some people hate the way that I talk, this shit be spicy. But say a bunch of shit that ain't true, it isn't likely. They try to say your vision ain't true, but with your sight see. The best way to tear you apart is through your psyche. I give it to you real, what you need me to say. Ask the world leaders about the oath they secretly take. It's a plan that they got to keep us legally slaves. Paid labor overwhelming when you needed a break. If you think that I'm just talking, then bitch you lost. It's a war going on like rich versus poor. The rich keep getting rich while your broke ass starve. Feeding you little pennies at that punk ass job. thinking cause you get it in tax, you need that income. Really, I'm just stating the facts cause niggas been dumb. Your emotions are controlled by a system. Cause when I make a song full of hate, niggas listen. When I make a song about love, niggas skip it. They both from the soul, so really ain't nothing different. Today you gotta give it a fight to make the hate stop. Niggas on that ignorant shit gon' get a face shot. Believe what you wanna believe. A lot of niggas snakes, only going off of belief. A lot of shit is fake with 2 cans blazing. I'm ready for damnation. So tell a slave master I'm burning the plantation. You fuck niggas like to throw pain but can't take it. So all during war these flames remain sacred. Barrel to the root of your tongue, you niggas tasteless. Lights flying over your head, it ain't a spaceship. The reason why we fully equipped was information. It led us on the path that got us out of the matrix. Unity is power beyond, we should embrace it. But you could never bathe in the truth when you were racist. Speeding off what you was taught, then the brakes slip. Then you see it's nothing you thought, that shit is dangerous. A lot of people dying for what? That shit was aimless. It's kinda like a video game, it took stages. Just make sure these lanes remain nameless. Hood politics part 2, my name dangerous.
Part 3 coming up. Part 3 coming up. Grand Rising, everybody. Vibe and Lord, much love and respect. Everybody in the chat, man. Here we go.
Over 90 of the top 100.
Get rid of that commercial.
Shit getting out of control, I mean we been there. Hate, they disguise it as love, we call it sincere. They took us to a place where ain't none of this shit clear, and we just look stupid, wondering how we get here. This government got us in chains cause they don't love us. They got us separated by gangs over some colors. What hurts more is we keep trusting these motherfuckers and putting bullshit that they say over each other. It's a bad world, many cry in this sad world. A unicorn is compared to a black girl, or any child when you mix it, making life swirl. Gems meet a diamond and dance to make the ice swirl. Nigga, don't waste your time trying to hate on me. If you can't deal with your pride, then stay away from me. I don't fuck with none of that dumb shit, you heard that? Don't believe we live on a globe, nigga, the earth flat. First you gotta love yourself, then take the earth back. Find what's really important and make it worth that. Too much time in your hands lead to a dirt nap, but niggas don't keep the same energy to exert that.
What kind of freedom is that? What kind of social or political system is it when a black man has no voice in court, has nothing on his side other than what the white man chooses to give him? My brothers and sisters, we have to put a stop to this, and it will never be stopped until we stop it ourselves.
Mind over matter, but none of that'll matter when in life you're trying to climb and a nigga pull a ladder. Believing in the myth when reality is shattered. The lies never end unless you serve it on a platter. America made you a slave, then call you monster. Erase everything that we paved and say we conquered. Willie lynching is a system that really harmed us. It raped women, left children without their fathers. America, land of the free, home of the great. America, cage of the beast, home of a snake. But the fight don't stop when you gone. This shit a marathon. Everything they touched in this world, they made it terraform. The best piece of advice, stay about these pigs sight. Fuck what goes on in the street, nigga, just live life. You only get one of those, nigga, don't play with that. Trying to dance away in the dark and never make it back. We got a lot of loving to do, shit is getting worse. Hate run deep in these roots, it's like the shit is cursed. Murder everything you can name, the world gone berserk. Pedophilia real as fuck, it's even in the church. Music we've been flaming it, no it ain't no game with it. Just know I put my soul on the beat when you banging it. This is for the shit that I see and won't play with it. Hood politics part 3, my name dangerous.
They attack the victim, and then the criminal who attacked the victim accuses the victim of attacking him. This is American justice. This is American democracy. And those of you who are familiar with it know that in America, democracy is hypocrisy. Now, if I'm wrong, put me in jail. But if you can't prove that a democracy is not hypocrisy, then don't put your hands on me.
Shout out my nigga Mouth. Shout out my nigga Dane. Yeah, Alabama. Like I said, shout out to my brother in Alabama, Chief Blackfoot. You know, I gave you the host, my brother. If, you know, do what you do. I'm gonna be listening in. I will be tapping. And shout out to everybody in the house. My brother Juan Torres, Yilda, Vibrant Lord. But yeah, but Alabama, you got it.
Mic check, mic check. 1, 2, 1, 2. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. We're having some difficulties technically. The Angel is a bit delayed. What about you? I don't see Kabir. What's going on with him?
He's supposed to be on. Let me hold on, let me give him a call.
Yeah, because for some reasons, and as I already told Big Dog off mic, and I'm sure everybody else can hear us too. So Big Dog, I'm gonna need another song interlude until cause on my phone it's telling me to ask for a password too. So I'm trying to get this stuff straightened out here on why it's asking us for a password. Give me a second here. Let me see if I can share this video while I'm trying to get myself together. Can you see my screen, Blackfoot?
Yeah, I can see your screen.
Okay. Now you see the video too?
Yes.
Okay. Let me play this and I'm gonna mute. It's about 10 minutes or so. Check
Okay,
with your guest, with Kabir. I'm gonna
gotcha.
try to get her to.
All right.
Hey, real quick, I don't mean to interrupt y'all. Whatever y'all did, it got the stream unavailable. Let me double check it. Whatever y'all was playing.
Big dog.
Yeah, whatever y'all playing got the stream unavailable.
Okay, I
Yeah.
just stopped sharing the screen.
Yeah, it's just whatever y'all playing got it unavailable. We're gonna give it a couple seconds and it should come back. I don't know if they can hear us or see us. So give it a second, yeah.
You still there, big dog? Blackfoot, can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear, brother.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I may have to Alabama, I may have to start it over because it seemed like it says stream suspended for policy violation. And normally it come back.
Okay, so you want us to back out and you're gonna start it over again?
Shit, I was hoping it'd come back on, but give it a minute. I don't think I got a strike or anything because I'm still able to share different stuff. Let's see. Oh, share. Yeah, I'm still able to share. So they didn't give me a strike for that. I might have to start it back again. Let's give it 2 minutes, see if they let it back through. Oh yeah, we back. We back. But whatever y'all was playing, they ain't gonna let y'all play it. So yeah, you got it, Alabama. We
Okay,
should be back.
I will not play another video until
Yeah,
we get
put
ourselves
a one
flowing.
in the chat real quick. Put a one in the chat if we back. Put a one in the chat if you can hear me loud and clear, and we're back. Okay, somebody said they hearing now. Conscious spirit, thank you. Yeah, so go ahead, Alabama. Y'all got it. I'll be in the
Yeah,
back.
I appreciate that. Let me try something from the phone here. You still playing music, big dog?
No, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't do anything because I gave you the host. So whatever you got, you do. You got to do it.
It's telling me on my screen only the host can share this meeting. Um, let's see here.
I don't know why it knocked you as yeah. Oh, okay. The other one? You got to give 832 the guest, the host, because I gave it to Alabama. So you got two. The other avatar can do the you. Can you move it from Alabama to brother 832?
Well, that's what I'm trying to figure out now. How do I do that here on the
Basically you hit the participants, right where the participants is at. You hit that. Then you click on the name, click on your name and get a host of brother 832. You should be able to do that. You have to use the Alabama channel. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Appreciate the
Now,
one. Then
all
yeah,
right, let's see here. So let's try this for a second here. And if Enemy Public is eventually going to bring himself up, I hope he appreciates this. So let me just get myself back together here. So, okay. Pardon us, folks, as we get our technical difficulties worked out. If you can hear the anthem.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Whoa. Yeah, yeah. Whoa. Hands up in the air, unified and bold. Shoulders locked tight, stories untold. This is the camaraderie, the brotherhood flow. We all stand in that for the people we know. Field Marshal Brother Nazir, never back down. Talk your talk media, word spreads around town. Big dog, Philly OG, wisdom in his bark. Big Aboriginal power, lighting up the dark. Key Norfolk on the line, speaking truth through the static. Open to knowledge, mind sharp, automatic. Sure is the realest with that unbreakable stance. Bro Sanchez bringing light, giving minds a chance. Dangerous music, Drake Cobb's on the sound. DJ Cuddy spins it, our anthem hits the ground. T wriggles, Dulcinea, voices join the crowd. Smoke signal in the air, make the ancestors proud.
We all stand, we all rise. Act for our people, open up our eyes. Linked by legacy, forged in the fire. This is camaraderie, we lift each other higher.
Supreme Chief Holiday, guiding with honor. Voodoo Child, channel spirit, the feeling gets stronger. No one left behind. Every name is a torch, lighting freedom's path. As we move off the porch, every voice different, but the heart's the same. We paint our own future, signing with our names. Forged by the struggle, united by the fight. One dream, one people, together in the
We all
light.
stand, we all rise. Act for our people, open up our eyes. Linked by our legacy, forged in the fire. This is camaraderie, we lift each other higher. Hands clasped in a circle, ancestors hear the call. Past, present, future, together we won't fall. From the roots in the soil to the stars in the sky, voices echo strong, let the unity fly. We all stand, we all rise. Act for our people, open up our eyes. Linked by our legacy, forged in the fire. This is camaraderie, we lift each other higher. We lift each other higher. We all rise. Act for our people, open up our eyes. Linked by our legacy, forged in the fire. This is camaraderie, we lift each other higher. This is for the people, our movement, our pride. This is camaraderie, we stand side by side.
Okay, good people. Can you hear me? Mic check, mic check.
I can hear you.
Okay. All right, Angel.
Yo, peace. I can hear you.
So, Chief Blackfoot Adahu, I don't want to mispronounce your name, Blackfoot. And, and Angel, what we're going to do is I'm going to let you guys get yourselves together. We're going to give you each 2-minute introduction, starting with ladies first. Tell us about yourself and about your book, and then we're going to go forward. Hopefully Kabir makes it an Enemies Public with his wife's invitation. Be that as it may, the topic for tonight is delineation of a nation, and our guests are authors Angel with her book, Who You Calling Black? We interviewed her a couple of weeks ago, and our good brother, Chief Blackfoot, with his book, Transition. You have the floor, my sister.
Yo, peace. Peace and love to everyone. Thank you so very much. I am A. Angel, an Aboriginal American grandmama, an Indigenous cultural heritage knowledge bearer. And I will be referencing from my book, Who Are You Calling Black? A Demand to End the Genocide of Aboriginal Americans. Also, I would like to go to say that I proclaim and reserve all my natural born rights of Indigenous Aborigines as secured by our Aboriginal warriors in the American Revolution victory. This demand in this book ends the genocide of our people, Aboriginal Americans, the indigenous Negro Negroid phenotypic people of America. We are natural born Americans, true American people by blood. Continental North America is our ancestral homeland of origin, and United States of America is our ancestral homeland country of origin. Any violations to our natural born rights violates the Constitution of our country and is subject to the rule of law without limitation under United States of America authority and jurisdiction. Yako Kilawa.
Okay, sis. Blackfoot, you have 2 minutes to introduce yourself and topic of your book. You have the floor, sir.
All right, all right. Peace and love to everybody. Thank you, Alabama. Peace to you, Angel. My name is Blackfoot, Tahu, aka Brother Ali. You know, I'm from the Washington, D.C. area. And and I just want to say today has been a real crazy day. It's been yesterday was almost 90 degrees here, and today was snowing like crazy. So, they're manipulating the weather. But back to me, I just came out with a book. It's called Transitions, and it's basically a memoir of my life, you know, and um I just had the urge to write this, man, and it's going back to my family's homeland, which is in Talbotton, Georgia. You know what I mean? So that was the Creek Muskogee Nation, and that's basically what I wanna talk about a little bit today. You know? All right, Alabama.
Okay, my brother and my sister, have you all looked in the chat? Can you see in the chat what I have posted there?
Yes.
Did either of you have either the definition of delineation or something? If you want to pull that down, you can. But I'm going to try to at least come from what we've had other people tell us, like Webster's, on what is delineation. And then we're going to go forward from there. So, one of the examples here is they're talking about how to use delineation in a sentence. There was a couple of them that I was looking at here. What's interesting, one of the statements they used here, delineation is dismissed. Khalid dismissed the delineation of his father as mere spin. The name also helps dealers and customers with some delineation in the showroom. So basically, these examples that I'm looking at here, off the cuff on Merriam-Webster's website, they have delineation and examples, and then I'm going to open in a new window the definition. The act of outlining or representing something. Now they're going to say first with lines or words, the act of delineating, the delineation of a scene, for example, in a movie, the delineation of the territories allotted to the 7 tribes of Israel. They use as a reference for that first definition of delineation, which I find interesting. We'll probably circle back to that. Then the second definitive description for delineation says something made by delineating a more photographic delineation of low life, which is a reference from the writer and the author T.S. Eliot. But I'm going to come back to the delineation of the territories allotted to the 7 tribes of Israel. So let's start again with you, Angel, and then you give your perspective on what you consider the definition of delineation, whether you want to use your book or eventually, as the conversation flows, you want to screen share, just let me know. Because I think I'm going to have to make you both co-hosts. So while I'm saying that to you, I'm going to do that now while you give your definition and jump off on the statement of delineation and what is delineation.
Yes, brother, thank you. So I want to screen share just a couple of seconds here. Let me get my document pulled up.
Now, while you're doing that, I'm making you both co-hosts so that you can screen share if you'd like. Still no word from Kabir, Blackfoot? So right now I have made both of you co-hosts, and I yield.
Can you hear me, brother?
I can hear you now.
I trying to figure out the screen share.
In the middle, you see the green button where it says share.
Yes, I did that. And my document is coming up. However, it's like I have something on top of it. Can you see my screen share?
Not yet. How about you, Blackfoot? You get yourself situated. Did you have something you need to share? Or you might want to pull it up and get yourself prepped.
Well, understand, brother. I told you my situation. I'm.
Oh, so you're on your phone. You're not going to be able to share. Okay. Now we're seeing your screen.
I can't see it.
Well, I can. In 2024, OMB gave preference recognition, respect,
That
and
is
status.
exactly
That's
what
what
I'm
I'm
trying.
seeing on screen.
Okay, great. So this is from page 260 in my book, and this is in reference to delineation. This is one of the arguments that I'm making in the book, that how can they delineate foreign nationals and they not even recognize or acknowledge our people for delineation? And in the book, I write, in 2024, OMB gave preference, recognition, respect, and status to a selected group of foreign nationals with a new SPD 15 minimum category. Now, SPD 15 is the Statistical Policy Directive out of the OMB. And this policy began in 1977. And the policy is actually the race and ethnic designations that they utilize throughout the federal government system, which also permeates throughout every governmental system in the United States. That's what SPD 15 is. So I go on to say that the addition of MENA to SPD 15 is a delineation from Middle Eastern or North African individuals, disaggregated from the historic white category designation. This action is an affront to Indigenous Aborigines in our ancestral United States of America homeland, due to not being.
Hold on, sis. Hold on. I want to underscore that point. You just said that a Middle Easterner category is being removed from white category designation. Is that what I'm understanding from the
It's
sentence?
already happened. It
Oh,
already happened.
okay, go ahead.
Yes, it happened in 2024, in the 2024 OMB revisions. Okay. So, this action, I'm saying this action is an affront to us due to us not being recognized, acknowledged, identified, and respected by OMB as Aboriginal American. So it is imperative that Indigenous Aborigines in United States are reported separately, delineated from the Black or African American racial group forthwith from here on out. So I go on to state the diversity between Indigenous Negro-Negroid phenotypic people, us, Indigenous Aborigines in United States, and alien immigrants of Negro-Negroid phenotype must be correctly represented. Also imperative is protection for our constitutional rights as natural-born Americans to self-identify as Aboriginal American. So, and I go on to say it is interesting that OMB gave unprecedented recognition and respect to aggregating foreign nationals, aliens on American soil as MENA, as well as greater AIAN recognition to aliens. And the AIAN is the American Indian category. So let me just quote OMB right here, and then I'm done. While the minimum category definitions and detailed categories in this revision to SPD 15, this is OMB stating this, rely heavily on the concept of nationality. OMB recognizes that nationality is one of several components that contribute to racial and ethnic identity. The standards in SPD 15 are intended to facilitate individual identity to the greatest extent possible while still enabling the creation and consistent and comparable data. So OMB, their policy is to designate all the different population groups in the United States. They are the ones that construct that policy. So they construct all the designated groups. And MENA, this group MENA, which stands for Middle Eastern and North African, they have made their case, I guess, long enough and hard enough that OMB listened to them as a group because they were united and they made their case. And now they've been delineated, foreign nationals. And the reason for delineation is because once you're recognized, then funds can be allocated specifically for your group. You can make demands on the government as a delineated group. And for us, as the Indigenous Aborigines of the land, to not even get that recognition, to me, it's an affront that they put foreigners and give them higher preference and priority than us, the Aborigines of this land. So I land right there.
Blackfoot, with you being limited on whether or not you can share your
So,
screen, do you
so
have a response from your book? Or
yeah,
first, I'm gonna let him respond, Angel, and then let me know if you've checked with Kabir. if he's going to make it. But go ahead, brother. I'm on mute again.
So I'm giving a definition that of delineate, which I came to describe, outline, or show the exact boundaries or details of something clearly. So I can delineate the history of my people on this land because our ancestors have been here long before the United States existed, long before the United States drew its borders. So you talking about the Muskogee, the Anahuia, the Choctaw, the Chickasaw, and the Seminoles all had territories, governments, and their own laws. So my last name, Atahu, delineates back to the Chattahoochee River, and that runs from Georgia to Florida. So rivers were not just landmarks to our people. They were lifelines, boundaries, and identifiers. So when the Indian Removal Act of 1830 was passed under Andrew Jackson, those boundaries were ignored. Our people were forced from their lands that had defined us as a nation. And that forced removal became known as the Trail of Tears. But even after the removal, our identity did not disappear. The Muskogee people still delineate our nationhood through our culture, our language, and our ancestry. A nation is not only lines on a map, it is the people also, the memory, and the spirit of the land. So once again, the Muskogee Nation, my nation, had towns, they had governments, they had traditions and territories throughout the southeastern part of this land. And to speak of delineation is to speak of the truth. It is to remember who we are, where we come from, and the lands that shaped us. And as long as the memory of our ancestors lives within us, the delineation of our nation will never disappear.
Now, the original video that I played that caused the strike or for the stream to get suspended, probably because they consider it maybe copyright infringement, was this particular series that talks about our history being referred to as Black history, which is defamatory. But the Dred Scott ruling from the Supreme Court, which is what people are trying to base the argument of birthright citizenship. I think eventually we'll circle back to that in the conversation as it flows. But I wanted Angel, because I see she's pulling up something else on her book, and I
Excuse
know
me
that.
1 second, Alabama. I'll be right back.
Got you. Got you. Just chime in when you can. So, Angel, if you wanted to go back to your book and expound on again what is either defined as delineation or what effectively happens in implementation of delineation. You still muted, sis?
Yes.
You,
Yes, can you hear me?
yeah, I can. Your screen has changed on us.
All right, I'm going to go back and I would like to read from a page in the book that touches on what we're speaking about now and what Brother Blackfoot was just articulating. So this reference right here is to a letter that was written by the Seneca chiefs in 1790 to George Washington. And at that time, he was the federal president. This is December 1st, 1790. And for me, it is also important for us to go back into the historical record and interpret what happened from an Aboriginal perspective, because we have been listening to foreigners interpret how our country was set up. And they have put such a spin on it that everybody thinks that this country was founded and put together and established by foreigners, and that's absolutely not true. But this letter that the Seneca chiefs wrote was for clarity. They wanted clarity on what was going on because with the formation of this federal system, a lot of changes were being made. But let me just go into what this reference is stating. And let me say that this not only pertained to the Seneca Nation, but it encompassed a unity of sovereignty held amongst all Aboriginal nations of America. And that's the sovereignty we held under the customary Great Law of Peace. So this excerpt states, quote, all the lands we have been speaking of belong to the Six Nations. No part of it ever belonged to the King of England, and he could not give it to you. The land we live on, our fathers received from God, and they transmitted it to us for our children, and we cannot part with it. And so you can see in this quotation, I also put in parentheses certain words, like right here when they said Six Nations, that's all the Confederation leaders. The Six Nations were leaders of the Confederation of all the Aboriginal nations. And when it states the land, that just means Aboriginal America, our land here, America. And we are the Aborigines of the land. And for God, that means our natural born matrilineal descent, that we received this land through natural born matrilineal descent. And we cannot part from it. And we just cannot. So I wanted to share that, but I would like to go on to state right here that United States government administrators, officers, and elected officials were bound by constitutional oath to honor the Seneca Nation Proclamation of Aboriginal title, because that's literally when we say this is our land and we cannot part with it, that is us stating our Aboriginal title to the land. And they were supposed to protect our unalienable Aboriginal rights against usurpation. So this obligation in protecting the rights of Indigenous Aboriginal people was also guaranteed in the 1778 Confederation Agreement, a contract between the Continental Congress and Delaware Nation. And let me just read this excerpt from the treaty. Quote, the United States do engage to guarantee to the aforesaid nation of Delawares and their heirs all their territorial rights in the fullest and most ample manner as bath been bounded by former treaties. And it is further agreed on between the contracting parties, should it for the future be found conducive any other nations, I put in parentheses, tribes, because we were tribes. I put in the parentheses, nations. It says tribes, but I put in parentheses, nations, to join the present confederation and to form a state whereof the Delaware nation shall be head and have a representation in Congress. So in this treaty, the first state to form under the Confederation was supposed to be the Delaware nation state. Okay? And the federal administrative system that was to be set up in place, one of their functions was to help organize our nation states, because each state of the United States represents a nation state of the people of the land, and we're the only people of the land. So we are the nation states. And that's why this treaty said, okay, the Delaware nation is going to form the first state. They're going to be the head, they're going to be the first state. And then bring the rest of the nations in to join this confederation. And this is the 1778 treaty with the Delaware. And treaties are law in this country. So let me just make this last point here. The state of Delaware. See, I put in parentheses, state of Delaware became the first de facto body politic under a United States federal administrative government on 7 December 1787. Consequently, the de jure Delaware nation state of indigenous Aborigines was not organized as agreed. This blatant usurpation and fraud against the sovereignty of Aboriginal American people violates Article 4, Section 4 of the Constitution, guaranteeing a Republican form of government, as well as protection against invasion and domestic violence. Also, the Supremacy Clause was violated by not upholding the Delaware Treaty Agreement of 1778. And I land there.
1 second, Alabama.
Yeah, I don't see him. He hasn't come in. I saw your note there in the chat, but he has not come in.
Okay. Hold up.
While Kabir is coming on, Angel, let me circle back to the point that you raised there. I'm admitting him now.
Yes, brother.
Now, could you put back on screen the portion there with the Delaware Treaty? Excuse me. Okay, so let's go back. No, right there. Stop. The United States do engage to guarantee the aforesaid nation of Delawares and their heirs all their territorial rights in the fullest and most ample manner, as it bathe, well, I guess that should have been hath, as it hath been bounded by former treaties, which would be interesting to bring up whatever those former treaties were as well. And is further agreed on between the contracting parties, should it for the future be found conducive. Any other tribes, as you said, nations, to join the present confederation. That's where I want to reiterate here. So the 13 colonies, if done in a lawful manner, we know we're dealing with illegal behavior of criminals, right? That's kind of a given. That if it was done in a lawful manner, what are you suggesting the first 13 colonies would have been transitioning to states following the template of the state, the nation state of Delaware? So I want to try to be accurate in the language that we're using. Though we know this is all theoretical because they haven't done or ever followed any treaty in our entire history. But go ahead, sis.
Right. So all of the 13 colonies, actually there were 14, but in their reconstructed narrative of what happened, they made it 13. Because the colonies actually were plantations, and they were able to come together under their own legislative assemblies and make their own body of law. They actually formed body politics. But getting back to the 13 colonies after we won the American Revolution, and we won it, let that be known. No foreigners came over here and started anything. Everything was already set up. We already had law. We already had government. We were already formed as nations. We had our customs. We had our traditions. We had our norms. We had everything already in place. And we have been fighting to protect ourselves and the sovereignty of our nations and our lands for over 200 years when we won the American Revolution. So the colonies were actually dissolved by a declaration that was made in 1776, which they put a spin on it and call it the Declaration of Independence. It's the actual title of it is a declaration. And that declaration dissolved the colonies. And then the next year, the Articles of Confederation. So the colonies were dissolved. Those legislative assemblies were no more. And once we fought and won the American Revolution, King George III relinquished all his claims to everything he was claiming over here. And that's why the Seneca chiefs had to put it to George Washington, what's going on here? Because by 1790, they still weren't doing what they were supposed to do. And that's to help us organize our nation states. See, they have a job to do. They work for us. And it's been twisted because they have been able to do everything that they've done. I'm not going to get all into that now, but I'm just going to stick here onto the point of this treaty. The colonies were dissolved by a declaration and permanently dissolved through us winning the American Revolution. And King George relinquished all his claims over here, meaning that that revolution revolved our sovereignty back to us, the sovereignty over this land back to us, where it belonged, us, the Aboriginal people of the land.
Okay,
So I'm
Angela,
going
if I
to
want you to scroll up that page there where it says the state of Delaware became. Hold on. Go back down, just slowly. 'Cause you're going too fast. I wanted to just go to the but go back up just a little bit. Um, it was right under what I was reading. No, you're going backwards. Go scroll it up. Scroll the page up, just up a little bit more. The state of Delaware. I
I
want
see
you to
what you're saying.
stop,
Okay.
stop right there. Now, while we pause that, we're going to bring Kabir in, who's our third guest. So, Kabir, everyone else had about 2 minutes, introduce themselves, also the title of your book or what you want to use as the jump off. We are defining delineation, and then we're going to let the conversation flow from there. So, good brother Kabir Bey, I yield.
Hey, peace, family, peace. So I am Kabir, um, and the title of my book is The Sojourner's Manual. I actually have quite a few books out, but this is a book that I believe would fit the topic pretty well. And the book, what it deals with is questioning um, the rights of basically what it does is it invokes readers to think beyond like imposed classifications in terms of typical terms like Negro, Black, mulatto, African American, all those different terms, and it also guides people into the correct terms to utilize for themselves. I know that a lot of us have been programmed or believe that specific terms are fit for us, but they are really political terms. One big one is Indian. I don't, necessarily go against anyone that identifies as being an Indian, but the term itself specifically is a what I would call a political term. So that's kind of what my book deals with. And I'll yield for now. If anybody has like a question for me or anything, then I I'll be more than happy to answer to the best of my abilities.
So Kabir, you didn't tell us a little bit about yourself, but I have made co-host capacity for you if you need to and want to share your screen, just chime in. If you haven't forwarded your book to Big Dog, or someone can post it in the chat if you're able to do that, but I think you'd have to do it on the YouTube side in the chat. So, Kabir, if you do have the capacity to share your screen and you want to, we're doing right now is utilizing content of Angel's book, which is Who You Calling Black. That's where we were when you came in the middle of the conversation. So we're letting everybody define what they considered delineation, as you did. And I wanted to take this particular paragraph right here. So give me a moment. I'm going to read this. And then if you, three of you, want to kind of interact and discuss what this is saying, I'm saying this is almost the fundamental parameters of our topic title, Delineation of a Nation. So, the state of Delaware became the first de facto body politic under a United States federal administrative government on 7th December 1787. Consequently, the de jure Delaware nation state of indigenous aborigines was not organized as agreed. This blatant usurpation and fraud against the sovereignty of Aboriginal American people violates Article 4, Section 4 of the Constitution, guaranteeing, quote, a Republican form of government, unquote, as well as protection against invasion and domestic violence. Also, the Supremacy Clause was violated by not upholding the Delaware Treaty Contract of 1778. And finally, this Constitution and the laws of the United States, which shall be made in pursuance thereof, and all treaties made, or which shall be made, under the authority of the United States, shall be the supreme law of the land, and the judges in every state shall be bound thereby. Anything in the Constitution or laws of any state to the contrary, notwithstanding. Stop right there. Stop, sis. Stop right there. Just pause. So, however y'all want to chime in, right now, I just think just some interaction. Angel, Kabir, Blackfoot. This, I think, is a focal point of at least what we define. The topic for tonight is the delineation of a nation. So, take it however y'all want to go. And then I say in another few minutes, if you don't have your book that you want to share, Kabir, if all of you are in agreement and you want people to ask Q&A, I'll try to see if I can put the link in the chat. Now, I'm going on mute and you guys got it.
So, can you brothers hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. I would just like to just say something starting out that when I state here the de jure Delaware nation state, I'm not only referring to just that nation, I'm referring to all our Aboriginal nations, all of them, because the treaty actually stated that the Delaware nation would be the first nation state. But as we know, especially from your heritage, Chief Blackfoot, the Creek had a confederacy. So there were nations that were collectively together under their confederacy. We had various confederacies, but under the United States of America Confederation, we were bringing all our nations together under one confederation. What I'm saying is that the way our Aboriginal leaders set up and established this country, it was to bring us all together as one people. And no foreigners can come and claim that they're the sovereign people of this land and that this is their country, because it's not. They're not the autochtons. They're not from here. They've been spinning this story and spinning it, the narrative, for generations now. So much so that the falsehood is considered the truth. But this book is definitely calling all of that out. And I would love to hear the feedback from the other two brothers that are here. Thank you.
Well, um, I wanted to talk a little bit about chapter 9 of my book, if that's okay.
Yes, brother,
Go
by all
ahead,
means.
Blackfoot. Again, remember, people are listening to you. If you're not screen sharing like her, say the title of your book, where they can get it. I tried to put it in the link. And as well, Kabir, if you can send it to Big Dog or to Blackfoot so it can be posted
I
in the
sent,
chat over on YouTube.
yeah.
So I'm going back on mute. You got it, brothers.
All right. I sent Kabir's book to Big Dog, also in his links, so he should have that. Um, like I said earlier, my book is called Transitions, and you can actually get that from Amazon, like right now. But I wanted to go over chapter 9, uh, which is the American misnomer as the Negro. And this chapter must begin with the definition, because words shape reality. And when words are altered, reality follows. If we want truth, we must go back before revision, before politics, before reclassification. And that is why older dictionaries and older books matter, because the truth is still preserved in those scripts. So let's go to the Noah's Webster's 1828 dictionary, long before modern racial engineering. And that definition reads of an American. It says a native of American, originally applied to the Aboriginals or copper colored race found here by the Europeans, but now applied to the descendants of Europeans born in America. So I want everybody to pause and just think about that, what that meant. That single definition explains everything that followed. Who was the original American? And according to Webster's, an American was originally an Aboriginal, a copper colored race, and found here by these Europeans. When it says, but now applied, to me, the way I look at that, but now applied to the Europeans, the but now is the lie. That's the line part right there. So only later was the term transferred and reapplied to the descendants of Europeans. And that transfer was not accidental, it was identity theft. So, what does the Aboriginal mean? Let me delineate the meaning of Aboriginal. Let's break it down. So, in the etymological sense, Aboriginal means first, earliest, existing from the beginning, especially referring to the inhabitants of lands later colonized by Europeans. Why the American had to be redefined. So once Europeans took the name American, the original Americans had to be renamed. Thus came Negro, colored, Black, African Americans, other classifications. Each one moved the people further away from the land, identity, and closer to the social management. This chapter is not about anger, it is about clarity. Because once you understand who the American was, you understand why the American had to be misnomered. And once you see that, you can no longer accept labels that were never yours. And I land right there.
So, Kabir, do you have something you want to offer direct from the text of your book, or what's your position on where we are so far? We're trying
Yeah.
to, set up delineation as a concept and a definition. So whichever direction you want to go.
Okay, no doubt. I appreciate that. So yeah, I will take a few lines from my book and hope not to take up
Now,
too much.
now, if either one of you want to screen share, Angel Just ask her so she can stop sharing her screen if you want to share yours. But I'd like you to leave up, Angel, until someone else wants to provide content.
Okay. Yeah, I don't have it readily available for screen sharing right now. But I will start out by saying that I believe that before we can delineate, excuse me, a nation, we would have to first separate four different things that people consistently mix between um, topics and discussions. And those four things would be legal versus lawful, statutes and statuses. The next one will be race. The next one would be nationality. And last but not least, we would have nationhood. Um, I believe the understanding of what legal and lawful is would play a major role in understanding delineation. Um, and just to give the basic definitions of the two, legal usually refers to what statutes or rules are allowed or prohibited. Lawful usually pertains to something that is carried out with proper authority, jurisdiction, and due process. So throughout the conversation, if we can just try to keep those two terms in mind, that would be awesome. So to just briefly touch on race, uh, race is usually a social or administrative classification. Legal status is your relationship to a state or to the state. Nationality can mean formal belonging to a nation state, and nationhood, which is something just a little deeper. It usually deals with a people or a peoplehood. It deals with continuity. It also deals with memory, kinship, and civilization. So for me, one of the biggest things, and I believe I heard the sister Angel briefly touch on this, but I wanted to expand on it just a little bit because it kind of this topic often can be or can seem a little misleading if a person is not trained to fully understand specific words. So when we normally hear people say that this was our land and we were here first and things of that nature, often try to keep an open mind and help others keep an open mind uh, when they say that this is and was our land. Because normally when they are saying our, they are grouping melanated or dark skinned people into one category. And a lot of people tend to get offended by this because a lot of people can't grasp the understanding or even comprehend that this was ours first, because a lot of people, just because they are melanated, do not have the same background or do not descend from the same area. Um, and really, the truth is, complexion is not a map. Uh, it does not by itself tell where a ancestry was rooted from. We have people that are from West Africa. We have so many other places that have melanated skin and who are sometimes categorized as being the misnomer black. So other people who say that, yeah, this was our land, they tend to categorize people with melanated skin uh, and place them in the same, I guess, field as them. But it must be noted that not all melanated people, again, originate from the Americas. We have people literally from everywhere. So that's one thing that I believe we must keep in mind when we speak about origin, and especially when we say that we as a whole were already here. Now, that's not to reject, anybody's belief. Is to reject the simplification and, and the idea that all so-called melanated people originate in one area. Um, Also, if I may, I would like to, well, I guess this will probably come up later on in the conversation, but terms like immigrant and migrant, uh, and the legal and lawful attachments to those terms. Also, the terms like U.S. citizen, um, and how we got to these different misnomers and different terms. Also, of course, the term black, and like I said earlier, the term Indian, which are all political terms and political classifications. Um, my book discusses the fact that the word black um, itself does not define a people, but it is a racial classification. For example, two people may be called black and still come from completely different historical nations, migrations, and cultures. Uh, of course, shared skin tone does not automatically equal one bloodline or origin or even one nation. When it comes to the term U.S. citizen, we know that that also is a legal term, and it is a legal member of the United States government slash corporation. That alone should tell us that tell us about state affiliate. Citizen does not by itself again tell a person's tribe or bloodline or even ancestral background. It is a political status. Modern governments are very good at assigning legal identities to people. That does not mean we have to answer to these questions, though. I'm sorry, that does mean that we have to answer to the question of who we truly are. Who are the people? If we are not a US citizen, if we are not black, and if these are constructs of a particular group of people. And we have to ask ourselves, what is the purpose behind these legal identities? And are these legal identities lawful? Um, I often
So,
tell people when we stop you, go ahead.
well, I was going to say, Kabir, that is a perfect segue for what I want to show. It's going to be a very short portion, but I think when you see this content that's coming from the state of Oregon, I'd like y'all all three. So if everyone would mute so that everybody can hear this. And then once I pause this, I want y'all to roll this in where we were as far as what is identity, what is ethnicity, and what is race.
So this is the document or the PDF that's from ODHS and OHA Writing Style Guide. This is from the state of Oregon, Human Services, Oregon Health Authority. And when you go down to page, it's on page 67. So if y'all just remember 67, y'all go down to that section, you'll be able to see the racial categories of what they have available. Let's make sure we go here. And thank y'all for your patience. Try to make it easy for y'all and wrote that down. And when you go to page 67 of the document, you're able to see, it's a very informative document altogether. And a lot of people don't know it was illegal to be black in the state of Oregon until the year 2002. I repeat, it was illegal to be black in Oregon. It was set up as a ultimate Ku Klux Klan headquarters originally. So the books had it illegal to be a black citizen in that state. That alone should be grounds for reparations, because you were paying taxes and you were on the books as an illegal person. Let's go here, page 67. Okay, so in this part of it here, yeah, 67. They have the racial identity section around here. Okay, here it is. Race and ethnicity. And in their race and ethnicity, they say use these current terms for specific and racial or ethnic groups. And they have American Indian, Asian or Asian American persons, Black, African American, Pan African, African American, or foundational Black American persons, FBA persons, Hispanic or Latino, Native Hawaiian persons, Pacific Islanders, white persons, people who identify with more than one race or ethnicity, people of more than one race or ethnicity. Now, notice they even put this note on here. ODHS and OHA do not capitalize white. Y'all caught that?
Yes, sir.
Do not capitalize white. This aligns with AP guidelines. Isn't that fascinating?
Extremely.
Very much so. Especially when there's, people dark as Wesley Snipes that are considered white.
Yeah, yeah.
And now
yeah,
not even
absolutely.
exposed in fraud, the Somalis. Perfect
Right.
example.
Yeah, yeah. When somebody puts a specific note like that, and it says don't capitalize white, and white people ain't tripping about it, they up to something. So, anyways, also says note, American Indian or Alaskan Native should only be used to describe persons with different tribal affiliations. Otherwise, identify persons or groups by their specific tribal affiliation. That's a command not to acknowledge urban Indians, which is why you're on my radar and which is why I'm going to address you. Because they're giving an order to only acknowledge the federal groups. In fact, it says it on here. It says it on here. They even give you the use of BIPOC, Black, Indigenous, Person of Color. So they're very specific on how you're supposed to be identified in the state of Oregon, who just yesterday started even allowing Black people to even be legally in their state, right? So this might be something that, since freedmen are not considered on here and it's lineage based, this is why I'm saying this may be something that may be of interest to you in order to do a proper follow-up. I commend the American freedmen for their ability to find very key topics and then be able to address them either legally or bringing it to the public's attention. I think it's a very good example that many people can follow. It's something that we take a lot of pride in, being able to address things as urban Indians. But I recognize that by you, and I salute both of you for being able to do that, as well as those who are your supporters. And with that, I currently yield the floor.
Okay, I'm pausing there because what I want to offer up for the conversation going forward is what is confusing about American, freedmen, urban, Indian. And in that segment there, this is a possible pending lawsuit to take on the National Urban League in its documentation removing indigenous Indians or indigenous citizens in urban settings and purposely replacing Negro to receive federal funding, in this case, in cooperation and I'd say a collusion with the Ford Foundation. So anyone wants to jump off on that? And I'm going to either Big Dog, if you would pin it at the top of the chat, if everyone is agreeable, if you'd like any Q&A, click on the link and then I will let you in the back room. Well, Angel, if you want to start on this.
Yes, I do. I would like to go back to that excerpt that you had just played from, and that was from, did you state where that was from?
The segment I played was a town hall meeting from the Urban Indian Heritage Society, who is in the process of organizing a lawsuit specific against the National Urban League of, well, this is my take on it, either denaturalizing or delineating, which depends on your perspective, who is the indigenous, and they're using air quotes, I'm using air quotes, citizen in urban centers of the United States of America.
Okay. I don't know what document that was he was reading from, but I guarantee you that in every federal regulation notice that has been put out by the OMB, that they absolutely capitalize the W in white. And that's the federal government. That's the federal administrative government. They absolutely capitalizes the W in white. And he quoted that AP, they don't capitalize it. And who is he referring to when he say AP? Is he talking about the Associated Press? Alabama?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Is he when he said AP does not capitalize white persons, or I think it said white persons. I know it said white. I think it said person. Who is he referring to when he says AP does not capitalize it? Is he referring to the Associated Press?
I don't know that AP stands for Associated Press or an English form of grant. That was an actual writing guide from the Oregon State Health Services. But go ahead,
Oh,
sis.
yeah. Well, like I said, every federal regulation notice from the OMB, the Office of Management and Budget, capitalizes white for that group of that population group in the United States. You were asking us about identity. Did you still want to go back to that? Or you wanted us to move forward with something else? Because you said you wanted us to expound on identity, nationality, and
Well, what I'm bringing up is whether there is confusion, and actually that's a that's an obvious problem when we are the only people in history who've had we're well into double digits of multiple labels, names, misnomers, classification, identification, whatever suits you folks. So I'm on mute. Y'all mix it up, and I'm still seeing if people want to come in Q&A. I'm putting in the link in the chat with the YouTube.
For me personally, this is Kabir. I would say yes, there is absolute confusion. And confusion normally happens when people mix legal identity, geographic identity, and also ancestral identity together, and then assume that they all the same thing, which they are not. When in terms of indigenous just refers to people who are historically connected to a land way before later populations or political systems came. Um, and that's typically what area that we are in, but they introduce different terms like American and foreign, and they it crosses the lines between uh uh basically geography and history and nationhood, lineage. So keeping those separate and understanding that they are all not the same thing, I think sheds light and it helps take away the mass confusion um, with in terms of mixing the legal identities. I believe our people truly um, are in a confused because again, a lot of us still truly don't know the history or don't understand the history and background and why these different terms were placed on us as a whole, melanated people as a whole. And once we are able to grasp understanding on why these labels were placed on us, then we can sort out the confusion and seek reparations if need be. Me personally, I'm not a big fan of the reparations idea, and I have personal reasons why. But I at this point instead of trying to go after reparations, we need to merge together and put together the resources that we have to build what needs to be built. Reparations is a form of dependency. It can be viewed as a form of dependency, and we don't necessarily want to make the U.S. corporation / government believe that we are in a dependent state. That's how they have the so-called Native American tribes right now, those who are federally recognized. They are in a dependent state. They are not 100% sovereign. They are a dependent state, and they are not able to enter any treaties with anyone outside of Congress's approval. So that is kind of like a catch-22. A lot of people view the so-called modern Indians or Native Americans as being sovereign and independent and as if they can do what they want. Technically, they are still governed because they take some form of benefit from the U.S. government. So in terms of reparations, I personally don't want any reparations or any thing that can be viewed as a handout, because that again for me would also blur the lines and cross over into what can be considered as confusion in terms of understanding who we truly are.
Kabir, I don't know if it's
So
me,
that's
but
kind
it
of my
sounds
take
like
on.
your sound is a bit distorted. I don't know if it's me. It's almost sounds like you either, I don't know if you're driving or there's like a modulation. You keep going in and out. So I don't know if it's me or if everybody else is
Oh
hearing you
wow.
clearly. Let me respond to the points that you were making, not just about reparations, but here, and again, I'm just offering the parameters of what I think the discussion should be as the topic delineation of a nation. And again, this is my opinion, but I think it's based on facts. There is American, and then there is United States citizen. Now, as Blackfoot already shared, as far as the definition from Noah Webster in 1828, and the actual American English that he used for his dictionary was based on quote unquote tribal languages and tongues, at least about 24 of them. So the English that is American is of American origin. In defining what American was, the copper colored Aborigine, not black, not white. In addition, and you're probably right, Angel, though I think it's a qualifier, in that note, that notation from the Oregon state government, they were admonishing people not to capitalize the word white because it's a adjective. The only thing that is upper and lowercase capitalized is nouns, that is persons, places, and things. Neither black or white should be capitalized as an adjective because an adjective modifies a noun. So, and the issue of reparations, and we'll probably circle back to this as the conversation flows. The reparations in question keep being put in the context of slave narrative, but all reparations that are used and referenced for the argument, whether it's Japanese or the small hats in the nation state of Israel, those were wartime policies of the United States government and the German government. So y'all take it from there, chop that up.
Yes, can you hear me?
Loud and clear, sis.
Oh,
Blackfoot,
thank you.
y'all, if y'all want to interact, I'm just trying to see if people, again, the person in the chat and in YouTube asking where's the link, it is pinned at the top. I will deposit it again in the chat, but at the very top, you will see the link pinned at the top. But go ahead, sis.
Yes. So in the Constitution, the organic Constitution, within the first 7 articles, in Article 2, where it talks about who can become president, it actually mentions two different citizenship status. It states natural born citizen or citizen of the United States. Now let's look at citizen of the United States. We know that term to be specifically referenced to all who are naturalized into federal citizenship. So all immigrants are citizens of the United States. Now, who are the natural born citizens? Well, it could only be the natural people of the land. And this is a point that they never want to articulate or expound upon because they're not natural born. They're not the people of the land. Therefore, when we're looking at identity, identity refers to sameness. So the identity of the natural born people, we're all the same as being the indigenous aborigines of this land. That's our identity. We are the American people. All foreigners, immigrants, they have that sameness of being immigrants and they're citizens of the United States. So we have two different statuses. One is natural born, the other is naturalized. And all the foreigners have to be naturalized through the federal immigration system to become a federal citizen. But we're born through lineage as natural born citizens. And I just wanted to make that point, and also to also take a look at these new socio-political constructs that have been coming up, and yes, among our people, like the term, the designation of American freedmen. Then we have this foundational Black American, which they call FBA. And then there's another socio-political construct in this American descendants of slavery, which actually, going back in the day, they first called themselves African descendants of slavery. But at some point, they changed into American descendants of slavery, which to me is an oxymoron because we Americans were never slaves. You cannot enslave an Aborigine on their ancestral homeland. So that term to me is an oxymoron. It makes no sense. American descendants of slavery. Our people were captives of war. We were prisoners of war, but we were never slaves. And that's just my oral tradition from my elders to my ear, that we were never anybody's slave. We may have been forced to do or coerced to do what another group pressed upon us, but that still doesn't make us a slave in our land. It's unlawful to enslave Aborigines on their ancestral homeland. So all those groups are socio-political constructs. My identity is Aboriginal American, and I distinguish myself as such because my oral tradition is that we are the Aborigines of this land. We're the people of the land and soil. The indigenous Negroid phenotypic people of America. That's who Aborigines are. That's my identity. That's how I identify. My nationality is American because this is our country. So you were asking about identity, nationality, And status, my status is also American, Aboriginal American. I distinguish myself as an Aboriginal American because it is the correct binomial nomenclature for us to use in a legal setting. The federal government also uses binomial nomenclature. They have Native American, they have Asian American, they have all these various American, hyphenated American groups, except for they don't have Aboriginal American, and they are going to have it. Once we put our foot down and let it be known that nothing else matters to us but our recognition, our acknowledgement as the Aboriginal people of this land, as Aboriginal Americans. So all these other groups, to me, are like factions, and it's causing a lot of chaos and confusion. And in the last revision that OMB did, all those groups, FBA, ADOS, American Freedmen, all of them went to OMB and stated whatever claim they stated. Because when you read the federal regulation notice out of 2024, they speak on all of that. And pretty much, and I talk about it in the book, it's in my book, I really cite a lot of what happened during that whole process of revising SPD 15. They were revising the race and ethnicity designations. And they made it seem like, oh, well, all of these groups, I mean, they can't seem to make up their mind who they are. And this is up for more research. That's literally was the findings of the OMB after they tried to make sense out of all of it. And so they just said it's up for more research. But what they did in 2024 is they removed Negro. Negro was removed from the Black or African American category, because for generations it used to be Black/Negro or Negro/Black. They removed Negro. And now the category is just Black or African American, and it actually defines as Black racial groups of Africa. And we're not from Africa. And we have proof that since 1850, the Census Bureau has been designating our people, Negroid phenotypic people, as Black. That was the first year that they started the term Black as a racial designation. And they put us in there. And we did not have any say in it because there was no self-identification for 100 years, from 1850 to 1950. They had observer determined identification of every designated population group. So they put us under Black, or when they switched up and changed it to Negro, or they switched up and changed it to color. Then they switched up, and from 1930 to 1950, they had us as Negro Indians, and I can also pull that up from my book. And then they switched up and they started with this African American, but they put a or, Black or African American. So we as a people, and I'm speaking to Aboriginal American people, we have the right, the natural born right, to state who we are, to demand that they correct all those wrongs of the past to our identity and our status. And they don't have a choice but to do what we say, because we're the natural sovereigns of this land. And when our people stand on the truth of who we are, then everything else will come according to that. And I land with that. And excuse me for getting passionate, but this is something very, very near and dear to my heart. What has happened to us as a people, and my elders who are now ancestors charged me with correcting the wrongs of the past done to our people. And I land right there.
So, gentlemen, if you want to reference your books again, where do you want to take this, Blackfoot? We can't hear you, brother. You mute yourself. Did he step away? How about you, Kabir?
I will say that I agree with the system, 100%. I'll also say that I believe that and just going back to the whole confusion thing and also the difference between legal and lawful. Um, I agree that they must pay for what they've done. I agree that we are the original Aboriginal people, but I believe that there's a line that's drawn due to the fact that we still subconsciously classify ourselves under the US government's construct, be it being utilized in terms like natural born or, or naturalized. All those terms are still US government created terms, so to speak. And that's one reason why confusion is outweighing the whole thing, because we have to completely separate from the terms that they've created, because these terms are part of their governmental system. I often tell people, like, yes, we are the indigenous people, we are the original people. At the same time, if we are going to stand on that, we need to stop um, we need to stop taking part of their game. Part of the game is could be something as simple as going to get a state identification card. A lot of people don't realize that these identifications that are issued out to us, whether it be a driver's license, a U.S. passport, any state identification card, etc., they are compacts. They come with contracts, and they are pledges of allegiance um, to the U.S. government. So when we take these pledges of allegiance that we don't realize that we are taking, we are basically telling the U.S. government in their terms, as far as how they have it written down, that we still don't know who we are, or we are their property, so to speak. We are state property when we utilize these things or blindly sign up for certain identifications. And that's where the line of confusion uh, is in terms of governmental system created labels. The U.S. specifically, governmental labels. The only way to truly step into who we truly are and force them to give the acknowledgement, not necessarily recognition, but acknowledgement of who we truly are, is to one, disassociate ourselves completely from their systems. We have to give them back what is theirs. I know that some people are not big on not using a SSN number. A construct of their system that is a form of dependency on their system. So when we give these things back, or when we stop utilizing these things, when we stop signing up for these things, then we can say this is who we are. We can't have it both ways, though. We can't say that we are a natural born citizen, and then which from their understanding is again a term that they've created. for their system. We can't utilize those terms if they're going to be categorized as a specific in a specific way for their benefit over us. We can't go continue to sign up for driver's licenses issued through states and then say that we are sovereign, because that takes away our sovereignty and places us in a subordinate state uh, under the specific state. The same thing with the passports. Passports are considered in the U.S.'s eyes as a pledge of allegiance to the U.S. government. Um, so again, confusion rests with what we do in terms of who we claim to truly be, and then acting on who we claim to truly be, separating their systems from the systems that we are trying to get back to in terms of indigenousness.
Okay, Blackfoot. Did he bail on us? He's still with us? Let me give you another little short here and see what you all have to say about this.
An indigenous Mexican is a Native American, just like a Native American in the United States. An indigenous Canadian is a Native American, just like a Native American in Mexico and the United States. An indigenous Guatemalan is a Native American, just like a Native American in Canada, Mexico, and the United States. An indigenous Nicaraguan is a Native American, just like a Native American in Guatemala, Canada, Mexico, and the United States. An indigenous Salvadoran is a Native American, just like a Native American in Nicaragua, Guatemala, Canada, Mexico, and the United States. An indigenous Honduran is a Native American, just like a Native American in El Salvador, Nicaragua, Guatemala, Canada, Mexico, and the United States. An indigenous Costa Rican is a Native American, just like a Native American in Honduras, El Salvador, Nicaragua, Guatemala, Canada, Mexico, and the United States. An indigenous South American is a Native American. Some of us were colonized by the English, some by the Spanish, some by the French, some by the Portuguese, some by the Dutch. But no matter the colonial language imposed on us, the borders drawn around us, or the flags flying over our land's gree, we remain one people. And we are still here. We call America, we call her Abya we call her Anahuac, we call her Turtle Island, we call her Pindorama, we call her Ixim Uleu, we call her Mesoacayala, Aztlan, Pachamama, and countless more. We are one people, speaking many tongues, carrying thousands of years of memory. We are native to this land. We were not divided by countries, and we were connected by rivers, mountains, trails, and trade. All of it. We are still here, and we remember who we are.
Okay, my brother, my sister, what's your response to that? And I'm going to throw in there, in March of 2023, that was Francis, before he passed, ran to Canada, supposedly denouncing the doctrine of discovery and announcing the Canadians, not us, south of, as Malcolm refers to, the Mason-Dixon line, as the First Nations and the indigenous peoples. That's partly why I just played that. So what say you, my brother, my sister, and Blackfoot, if you back in the mix?
Yes, may I? May I speak?
The floor is yours, sis. I'm just trying to keep goosing the conversation. And anyone again in the chat, it is pinned at the top if you'd like to ask questions before we wrap up this evening. The link is pinned to the top of the chat in YouTube. Go ahead, sis.
Yes, thank you. So first of all, you know that video is AI. That's an AI video. So it's fake. And second of all those languages and all those groups that he mentioned, those are contemporary groups and contemporary languages. Our people has the oldest indigenous language of this land. The Yama language dates back at least 15,000 years ago. And may I say, Yama Poshno, Yama Chafa Nonka Yama, Amawa ka poshno lo fihalo awacho kaholoka. Yamachi to awaholoka benili. Yama chokma yakoki lawa. So all these natives who are claiming to be indigenous, they can make all the claims they want. They're not the Aborigines of this land. They're not the indigenous Negroid, phenotypic people of this land and soil, the autochtons. So they can make all the AI claims that they want. Now, brother, I sent you a video. I would like for you to pull that one up and play it if you can. It's a TikTok video that I shared with you earlier today. And I think that video will kind of help clear some things up, because these native groups have a couple of different
No,
movements going on.
if you're talking about that Instagram,
Oh, was it Instagram? Yes. Did you look at that one, bro? Yes, it was an Instagram. If you could pull that one up and play it. But let me just wrap up my thought here. These native groups have a couple of different movements going on. And one of them is land back movement. How can they get land back when the land was never theirs, for one thing? Another movement that they're pushing these days is called pretendians. They are trying to call out so-called pretendians, those who they deem are perpetrating that they're Indians and they're not. And another movement I've just heard about recently that they're pushing, and their scholars are getting behind it, and they're pushing this term of how do they say, non-indigeneity? No, self-indigeneity. They're claiming that there are those groups or individuals who are going around claiming that they're indigenous, they're self-identifying as indigenous, and they're not. So I think it's really it's just rich of these native groups to make any of these accusations. And I hope they don't mean they're not directing any of this toward us Aborigines, because they absolutely are going to have to sit down. They're absolutely going to have to put some respect on our name as the Aboriginal American people of this land. And I'm just going to land right there. I hope you can find that that clip, that video, and share that too as equal time with that AI video. And I land right there.
well, Kabir, do you want to respond or you want me to play it and then you respond?
I'll just quickly say that my take on the terms indigenous and Native American. So basically, for me, indigenous is a global concept, while Native American is a regional identity connected to basically the original peoples of the Americas. And just because a specific group of people claim to be natives to the Americas or Native American doesn't necessarily mean that they wholeheartedly fit that description. Also, just to throw in Aboriginal, because I think that is the term that best or better describes us. Aboriginal just means the earliest inhabitants of a land and different parts of the world. So I do believe that we are the earliest inhabitants of the land, and that
Well,
ties into us also being indigenous and
well,
leading
not
to.
to quibble over a semantical argument. Autochthonous actually speaks to originating from the soil. As far as Aboriginal and Indigenous, which people are trying to conflate the two, I think once we start actually taking litigation, which is the point I raised the video with the Urban Indian Heritage Society. Let me go ahead and just show this brief link that she
Yeah,
said,
may I
and then
say,
you respond.
excuse me, brother, may I just add one more thing right here uh, to add on to what our brother Kabir just stated?
The floor is yours, Angel. I
Okay.
was trying to do what you asked, was to play the response, and then y'all
Yeah.
respond to it. But go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Real quick. So the term indigenous is an adjective, and adjectives are words that describe. So the term indigenous is the term that describes the relationship that Aborigines have to their ancestral land. Indigenous describes Aboriginal people all over this world. We are the indigenous people, the Aborigines of America. Australia, in Australia, the Aborigines down there, they are the indigenous people there. The UN does not give a definition for the term indigenous, even though they have UNDRIP, the Declaration on Indigenous Rights. They do not define indigenous, but they do give an explanation. And I cite that explanation in my book. And basically, what the explanation says is that indigenous people are the Aboriginal people who were on the land before colonization. So you have to be Aboriginal to be indigenous. But everybody wants to claim they're indigenous these days, so go ahead. But when it's all said and done, if you're not an Aborigine of that land, then you're not the indigenous people in our land. Click the sound.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying you may have to share. Ken, I've got it all the way up on my side. You can't hear it?
No.
Yeah, I think I'm going to either have to put it in the chat and you share it from your side.
Or can you just pull it? Oh, you don't have Instagram?
No, I don't.
Okay.
So I'm going to drop it in the chat. While I'm doing that, I have one that was queued up about birthright citizenship. So if you look in the chat, you see I'm loading it up now. If you can pull it up on your side, on your laptop, but listen to this here. And this is again in response to what is being pushed from the executive order of birthright citizenship.
This is the foundational sentence of this order, and he didn't even quote the Constitution right by design because it's a textual perversion of what the Constitution says, and it's offensive. We just say anybody who's born here, no matter what, there's an explicit guarantee of birthright citizenship that comes from Wong Kim Ark. No, it doesn't, Judge. Oh, look at that. He was a partner at Perkins Coie. Isn't that something? You know who worked there? Mark Elias and Michael Sussman. The Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals drops one of the more embarrassing decisions in recent memory. This is the birthright citizenship case where all of these states, Washington, Arizona, I'm sorry to admit that, Illinois, Oregon, and others, sued Trump, and they said illegal aliens who break into our country and drop off babies, they automatically get the full benefits of citizenship because they're better than you, and they just take what they want in violation of your national sovereignty for their own selfish gains. So Trump, of course, is being sued on this one, and the Ninth Circuit just embarrassed themselves, and the judge is named Ronald Gould, who is a Bill Clinton appointee, and he wrote this opinion. And this judge must be either malicious or just dumb because he's not even reading or following the Constitution as it's written, as I'll show you. But here is who this dude is, appointed by Bill Clinton back in 1999. He's a Democrat, University of Pennsylvania, and here's the things. Gold is Jewish. Clerks is able to get a good result. He's got multiple sclerosis, lost the use of arms. He's now in a wheelchair. Oh, great. He came out and he posted this decision. And maybe that explains why it's so bad. I don't know, because he's in a wheelchair. So did that affect his brain too? I don't know, but maybe. Now, let me share this with you because it says Washington, this is from this judge, Arizona, Illinois, and Oregon. They are expectant mothers. And one of the moms says, I need SNAP benefits for my illegal child. And they challenged Trump's executive order. Trump's executive order denies citizenship to children born in the United States territory of people who are here temporarily or unlawfully in the United States. So the district court in the lower level, we're in the Ninth Circuit now, entered a universal preliminary injunction which bars implementation of Trump's order. So Trump appeals, saying the states lack standing. They can't sue us over this, and you should have never issued the preliminary injunction, and the injunction was overbroad. So watch what they say right here. We address whether the executive order from Trump is constitutional invalid. So what you have to do is take the executive order and measure it against the Constitution. The Constitution says these are the rules you can have to follow to do the things you want to do. Did the executive order violate that? Let's see. This judge says we conclude that Trump's executive order is invalid because it contradicts the plain language of the 14th Amendment and its grant of citizenship. And watch what they do. This is so dishonest, okay, if not malicious. They wrote quote, 14th Amendment says their grant of citizenship says all persons born in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof, period. And you might say, well, that's pretty close. I mean, that sounds pretty right to us. I mean, that's 14th Amendment. Kind of, but not. And the judge is doing this intentionally. Now, if you just actually read the statute, if this judge could do that, he would see this is what it actually says, the 14th Amendment. And you'll notice it's a little bit different. It's actually much fuller. And so the judge was quoting this, all persons born in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof, period. And they even reference it in a quote, calling it the plain language of the law, right? You just read it. It's very easy to read it. Let me recreate it for you. And they did it erroneously. So they can't even read the plain language of the Constitution, which says the following. And it's got very important markers of punctuation, which we spend a lot of time on in the law, in constitutional law, a ton of time. Where was the comma? Where are the logical separations between phrases and clauses, and how do you assemble all the words on the page? Here's what it actually says. All persons born or naturalized in the United States and, comma, and subject to the jurisdiction thereof, comma, are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside, period. So they left out this whole, kind of second part of this, of the United States and more. But and subject to the jurisdiction thereof is a separate qualifying phrase. That's why we have the commas. It's not one in of the same. In other words, it's not conjunctive, such that you can say, if you're born and these other things, then you're good. You got to achieve both of those conditions separately. Physically born in the country and you're subject to the jurisdiction thereof. And they left out those commas intentionally, okay, to make this one run-on sentence and to make this second phrase not matter at all. And just said, well, if you're born here and you're subject to the jurisdiction, like you're born here, physically, and you are subject to the laws, then that's enough. It neuters the phrase, and they're doing it intentionally. And it's very dishonest because they say, just look at the plain language. He said that right there. That's not what it says. And if you say, hey, Rob, what does the actual Constitution show when they wrote this document down? It says there are commas in there. The 14th Amendment says here, all persons born or naturalized in the United States, comma, it's right there, and subject to the jurisdiction thereof, comma, are citizens of the United States and of the respective states wherein they reside. That's the actual written document. So according to the plain language of the Constitution, there's a whole separate clause there that means something, Judge. Like, it's dishonest. They do this intentionally, in my opinion, and they're doing it to pervert their outcome. This is the foundational sentence of this order. And he didn't even quote the Constitution right by design because it's a textual perversion of what the Constitution says, and it's offensive. They're doing it, it's like gross negligence or active maliciousness. You can pick one, but it's for a reason, okay? It's these little nuanced things. They just, well, close enough. No, because the individual plaintiffs are covered by a class action, we're not going to look at that. And if you think I'm just being pedantic over the actual commas, let me explain how the entire basis of their argument is also failing. Here they tell us the 14th Amendment was adopted after the Civil War. Judge Gould can't figure this out, but he says it said that we grant citizenship to slaves. Got it. Now, when the 14th Amendment was ratified, whether birthright citizenship applied to the children of non-citizens was still an open question. But the Supreme Court answered that question in Wong Kim Ark when the case was decided. Chinese nationals nationals in the United States were not permitted to become citizens. They were not. Chinese Exclusion Act. Chinese laborers could not re-enter the United States if they left. And so Chinese laborers were also required to obtain a certificate of residence, a non-laborer Chinese person, harsh presumption, whatever. So all of this is kind of red herring, not relevant. Now, against that backdrop, the Supreme Court considered the case of Wong Kim Ark. He was a Chinese American man who was denied re-entry into the United States despite being born in the United States. The question, of course, yeah, he was geographically, physically born in the country. No one's debating that. But what the question was, what was the status of his parents, Wong Kim Ark's parents? Because that's the analogy we're trying to draw between the illegal alien parents of illegal babies now. The Supreme Court canvassed English common law, early American decisions back in the 1800s, and the Wong Kim Ark case, and the meaning of the 14th Amendment. And they said that the citizenship clause stands for this: the fundamental rule of citizenship by birth within the dominion of the United States, notwithstanding alienage of the parents. Now, for that reason, although Wong Kim Ark's parents would have been unable to naturalize or even return to the United States, Wong Kim acquired citizenship by birth within the United States. And that is how it was. Since that was decided in 1898 and until this challenged order, the judiciary has consistently and uniformly protected this regardless of an immigration status of an individual's parents. Now, that's their assessment, okay? That's the crux of their decision on this one as it relates to Wong Kim Ark, the seminal case on this. Now, all you have to do if you're Judge Gould, we know he had a hard time reading the 14th Amendment, too complicated for him, but the actual case also explains right in the very beginning about how this works. Now, here is the decision. So, a child born in the United States of parents of Chinese descent, okay, so that would be like alienage, where did they come from, who at the time of his birth were subjects of the Emperor of China, okay, so they were Chinese, but have a permanent domicile and residence in the United States. Okay, this was decided 1898. It's the first sentence, Judge. Permanent domicile and residence, which means lawful. And they're there carrying on business, okay, engaging in American commerce, lawfully engaged in the business because they're here legally, permanently residing here, and they're not employed in any diplomatic or official capacity under the Emperor of China, becomes at the time of his birth a citizen. If you're here permanently and you're born here, then you have subjected yourself to the jurisdiction of the nation because you followed the laws to gain your domicile, your residence, and to engage in business. And it's all in the first sentence. Becomes at the time a citizen. And by virtue of this, all persons born, so this phrase, subject to the jurisdiction thereof, is being explained right there. It's in the first paragraph on the reported decision in Wong Kim Ark. And they spend a ton of time on this in this 84-page decision, which we've talked a lot about. And here they said Wong Kim Ark was born in 1873 in Sacramento, city of San Francisco. They said at the time of his birth, his mother and father were domiciled residents of the United States and had established and enjoyed a permanent domicile, okay? Established meaning they are legal and residents therein at the said city. Now, that said mother and father continued to reside, and they went back to China at one point. They had him here. Now, subject to the jurisdiction thereof. Now, that during all the time in their residence, they were domiciled residents, and the mother and father were engaged in business. They were even doing business here, and were never engaged in any diplomatic or official capacity at all. And so that is different, okay? What this Judge Gould is doing is perverting that. He's saying, well, we just say anybody who's born here, no matter what, there's an explicit guarantee of birthright citizenship that comes from Wong Kim Ark. No, it doesn't, Judge. Saying that it has to do with alienage, it doesn't at all. So then they're going to go through, right? This judge is nuts. That's the analysis on this decision from the Ninth Circuit. It's embarrassing and it's pathetic. Totally ridiculous decision. The judge should be embarrassed on the face of the document. Oh, look at that. He was a partner at Perkins Coie. Isn't that something? You know who worked there? Mark Elias and Michael Sussman. Then he got nominated from them. Bill Clinton shoved them up there. He loves Greenpeace and now loves illegal aliens. So, well, he's on the list of Jewish American jurists too. That's interesting. So they have a whole list of that. All right. So that's the judge. 14th Amendment. We're sure that Trump is going to appeal this up to the Supreme Court. And
Okay, folks, y'all want to chop that up before you share that, if you still want to share that, sis?
Yes, I definitely want to chop that up because it kind of goes along with what I was just saying, these claims that all these different groups are trying to make. And that case is a prime example of illegal aliens claiming that their child that was, I can't even say that they're in the country because the status of the child follows the mother or the parents. If the parents are illegal, the child is illegal. They do not have a legal status on our land. They are illegally on our soil. So they do not have a legal status. This to me, it's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer. But we're going to see because it's gone before the Supreme Court and they're going to interpret the merits of the 14th Amendment. But the 14th Amendment, that first part of the 14th Amendment clearly states all persons born or naturalized. And the born, okay, they left out natural. They didn't say natural born, but we know there's only two statuses, either you're natural born or you're naturalized. But they left it out here, and I go into that in my book. I really go into this whole 14th Amendment issue that's going on right now. But all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States. Now, illegal aliens are not subject to the jurisdiction. They hold no allegiance to our country. They hold no allegiance to our land. They don't even follow the laws and come over the border in a legal manner. So we're going to see where the Supreme Court takes that. But in my book, bro, what I did is I went back and referenced what the author of that first part of the First Amendment had to say on the congressional floor. Those excerpts are in my book. And also what the senator who argued before the Senate on the 14th Amendment had to say. But I just would like to share just a little bit of what, let's see, where is it? Because this has to do with natural born rights, but I'm not going to get into that. I'm going to read a little, some of what the author of the 14th Amendment had to say on the House floor. And this is back in 1862. Wait, let me make sure I'm reading the right. Okay. Okay, let's see. Blah, blah, blah.
Were you still going to share the Instagram or are you going back
Oh,
to share your
you want,
screen with you?
I can share the screen. If you like, it'll take me a little longer to pull up the page, but I can just read it here now, if that's okay. The Constitution leaves no room for doubt upon this subject. The words natural born citizen of the United States occur in it. And the other provision also occurs in it that Congress shall have power to pass a uniform system of naturalization. To naturalize a person is to admit him to citizenship. Who are natural born citizens? But those born within the Republic. Those born within the Republic, whether Black or white, are citizens by birth, natural born citizens, but there is no such word as white in your Constitution. Citizenship, therefore, does not depend upon complexion any more than it depends upon the rights of election or of office. All from other lands, who by terms of your laws and the compliance with their provisions become naturalized, are adopted citizens of the United States. All other persons born within the Republic of parents owing allegiance to no other sovereignty are natural born citizens. Gentlemen, can find no exceptions to this statement touching natural born citizens except what is said in the Constitution in relation to Indians. Unquote. So, right there, when I read that, he's making it clear between who is natural born and who is naturalized. Naturalized are immigrants, they're adopted citizens, they're adopted into a citizenship of this country. And those who are the natural born are those of the republic. That's us. We are the people of the republic. We're the people of this land. We're of the republic, the confederation from the beginning. We've always had confederacies here. Our government has been long established on this land. The United States of America is just a continuation. We are the people of the republic. And for those of you who study the historical record, you know that there's multiple references by multiple scholars that we are the Republicans, the original Republicans of the land, and everything's been usurped. So that's what the author of the 14th Amendment, that first part, said. They're making a distinction between the natural born and the naturalized, and illegal immigrants are nowhere up in there because they're not even legally on the soil. So they're not legally in the country. And we're going to see what the Supreme Court has to say about it. And I land right there.
Blackfoot, Kabir. Is it just to give y'all a knockout punch? I mean, what's going on? Again, those in the chat, I've said that if you are interested in asking a Q&A before we wrap up, did you still want to share that Instagram? Because on the sound side, I can't do it on my side. Angel. You brother.
While she's doing that, I guess I would just like to add something based on on the topic of immigrant and migrant, and the whole illegal aspect of those who come to the land. I do agree with the system. I will say that I agree with her 100%. But again, I also believe that there can be a bit of confusion when it comes to certain things for those who are listening or are possibly uninformed. I'll say that I always say that all immigrants are migrants, but not all migrants are immigrants. Meaning a migrant is anyone who moves from one place to another, and a immigrant is a migrant, basically, who enters another country intending to live there, not necessarily keep moving. And that ties back to my book, which is the Sojourner's Manual, which is discussing the whole movement aspect of a people. So with immigrant and migrant, those terms don't define a person's nation or ancestry.
Are you suggesting your Sojourner's Guide is going to reference the Great Migration, which I think that's a misnomer as a label as well? To immigrate with an E is to move within a country. To immigrate with an I is to move cross boundaries, or what we call nation states. But is that what your book addresses, the Great Migration from the South to the North?
No, not at all. That's not what I'm suggesting or saying. And I'm using immigrant with the I, not an E. So the word immigrant with the I and migrant both describe a legal movement condition, is what I'm saying. They do not fully describe a people. Um, and there's a big difference. DHS uses the term immigrant in a legal sense
which is tied to residence and status. So again, when dealing with the term itself, legal, it usually refers to statutes or rules that are allowed or prohibited.
Could you clarify what is an illegal versus a legal immigrant in your estimation?
Honestly, what I truly believe, and this is me. If a person is from the Americas, then they are not illegal. And that goes back into the UNDRIP um, definitions and guidelines and rules. Like you are able to migrate to any country that you are in some form tied to. Basically, what I'm saying is
So are
whether
you
it's
saying within the boundaries, these are artificial boundaries that we say are maps, from the tip of Chile to the North Pole? That is the Americas. Are you going to differentiate North, Central, and South
uh,
and the
so
conjoining islands?
100%. So North America, South America, Central America, if people are immigrating and or migrating in between the three, then I wouldn't consider them as being, me personally, I wouldn't consider them as being illegal because more than likely they were a part of North, South, Central America before the political constructs took place, before the colonizers and all these different people came and set up the boundaries, so to speak. So even with the so-called Supreme Court making rulings against and in favor of those who are and are not illegal, I'd say that a lot of people ancestrally were already tied to the land before these the Supreme Courts and different governmental systems, foreign governmental systems is what I'll call them, came in and set up shop. Um, so
So
for them, go
can I
ahead.
put in another spin on this? Lawful versus legal. So again, these are people who I would argue, especially anyone who's a European colonizer and therefore a descendant of someone who is an invader. They are now trying to dictate where other people are legal or illegal when they are, you know what fraud vitiates everything means, Kabir?
Absolutely, and you are
Okay.
100% where you're
Well,
going is
go ahead, chop
100%.
chop it up, brother.
Where you are going is 100% accurate. The colonizers are trying to restrict certain people and call them illegal when in fact they are the original illegal people. And so I would say Trump, for instance, like his parents are not from America, but they migrated to America, and he was born here. So for him to go into the whole birthright citizenship thing and call people illegal, it's like, how can you do that when technically
Well, you're talking
you
about the irony of being an anchor baby, giving birth to an anchor baby, because Barron is an absolute anchor baby. Now, his mother was a quote unquote mail order bride, and I'm using that loosely, not necessarily to defame her character, if you know what I mean. His grandfather was a degenerate, according to the governor of Germany, a twice-time draft dodger. He was ejected from the company and from the country more than once. But I won't go down any type of political rabbit hole with these things. I want to stay strictly on the facts. Okay. So what is legal and what is lawful? We have already had our sister go chapter and verse out of her book, Who You Calling Black, on anything that falls out of the boundaries of the organic constitution. Would you weave into that what is the great law of peace that your understanding may be, Kabir?
in terms of what is legal and what is lawful, I'll just what I can say is basically when dealing with legal and lawful, legal usually refers to
again, a statute or status or rules that are allowed or prohibited. Lawful pertains to if something is carried out with proper authority and jurisdiction and due process. The key word tied to lawful for me is jurisdiction, and then secondly, authority.
Interesting you
So
say that, my good brother. Authority and process. Now, you're aware in the process of naturalization, there are three major characteristics I'm concerned of. First, these are all aliens. I'm not going to call them invaders per se. I'm just going to say the category is foreign and alien. All United States citizens. All naturalized citizens are aliens in a category, but they must follow the protocol of, you know what an Article 3 court is, right, my good brother? It's Article 3 of the Constitution, not of these districts and these pop-up type things for code, statutes, and regulations, as you said, these administrative courts. It must be an Article 3 court of the judiciary of the Constitution. I have yet to have anyone provide me facts that any of these people have submitted either through an Article 3 court, and the two qualifying facts are those of good moral character, which is subjective, but I'll leave that as a question mark, and those who are not alien enemies, and I'm going to add the addendum to the actual Americans. So again, all United States citizens are foreign and alien. All United States citizens, in my estimation, are alien enemies to the American, and all United States citizens, according to the last occupant in the Oval Office, the criminal known as Joseph Robinette Biden Jr., said that we are all from somewhere else, but we are all Americans now. Chop that up, brother.
yeah, that's very ironic. To be blunt, um, because it's like the old term is basically having your cake and eating it too, which for me is I don't me personally I don't agree with any of it because it's very hypocritical, um, very hypocritical because the whole "we are now" type of thing is like uh, you can change the rules at any time to fit how you want things to be played out, and that's just not how it should be. Again, this is something that they've been doing since they invaded the land, trying to make the narrative fit their agenda. And I believe the only way, and this may not be answering your question, but I'll say I believe the only way for us to stop their narratives and put a halt on their agendas is by us again stepping away from their systems and basically creating our own systems or going back to the originality of who we truly are and systems that we already had in place. Um, I briefly had touched on the fact that we can't play their game and then say that we are not a part of their game because according to them, we fit the guidelines, we fit their rules. The whole natural born citizen thing, I touched on this. That is a term that they created. That is a term that is used in their game. So we should not be utilizing those terms if those terms are a part of their system, a part of their game, especially if we don't want to be viewed as subjects of the I guess the U.S. foreign government. Um, so uh, basically, what I'm saying is we as a people need to truly understand who we are and what we claim to be and separate the two because the line of confusion is right there and it's hairline thin. um
I
uh
know we keep having these back and forth give and takes. To me, this is not even up for dispute. But again, I'm just my humble opinion, stating there is American and there's those who are not. All United States citizens are not American by definition. The American is the
May I?
copper-colored Aboriginal people of this land. And I'm going to hand it to you, Angel. But again, if Blackfoot has stepped away from us, because I don't know if he's even still with us, if there was another thing you want to reiterate from your book, please again mention your book, where it can where we can purchase it, I guess. Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, the usual suspects. But go ahead, brother.
I'm not sure that he's even with us right now, to be honest.
Yeah, you haven't been speaking very often, Kabir. So remember to remind people the title of your book, where they can get it, and maybe you and Sister chomp up what is subject and what is citizen, and neither the twain shall meet when it's sovereign in question. And I yield.
May I?
Yes, go ahead, sister.
Okay, thank you. So I want to circle back to the words immigrant with an E and immigrant with an I. Immigrant with an E is a person who leaves their country to go and settle in another country permanently. That's immigrant with an E. An immigrant with an I, that is what they become once they've reached that country that they want to go settle in. And those who move around within the country are also immigrant with an I. So I just wanted to circle back to that. And I want to read a little bit from my book where I felt compelled to go in on natural rights, because natural rights are the rights of the natural people, the natural born people. And so in the United States of America, only Aboriginal American people are the matrilineal, natural born people of this land. And I'm quoting from the book, at the time that the Declaration of Independence was drafted.
Before you go in on Angel, is it something you can screen share?
Yeah, I can if you give me a minute.
Yeah,
I
ma'am, because
can
we just got a blank
pull it
screen up
up.
here. I just wanted people to at
Okay,
least be able to see what you're reading if you're able to share it.
okay.
And while you're pulling
Yeah,
that up, I'm going to have one final video that maybe we'll use to wrap up, because I'm intrigued by what either and both of you would say about federal recognition. But again, the topic for tonight's show is delineation of a nation. Our guests were A. Angel, the author of Who You Callin' Black, our good brother Chief Blackfoot Atahu, who his book is titled Transition, and our third brother, Ambassador Kabir Bey, whose book is entitled Sojourner's Guide. And I yield.
So this definition is coming from legal dictionary. The reference, the citation it's cited in the references list. But at the time that the Declaration of Independence was drafted, the rights that people spoke of were thought to be natural or God given. That's what natural born rights are, God given rights, what is thought to be God given amongst those who believe in God. But for us, natural rights are matrilineal rights for us Aborigines. Natural born rights or natural rights are not granted to people by their government. Governments simply establish the political conditions under which people are permitted to exercise their natural rights. And then the government expects its people to live according to those conditions. So, reiterating again, natural rights by their very nature do not change with time. And there's the reference to that. And here's another reference. The Constitution's text had an objectively identifiable or public meaning at the time of the founding that has not changed over time from its original meaning. and it goes more into natural rights. I cite some other sources, but I want to get over here to
Sis, go back right there. Hold, stop. The no person, hold on, you keep going over. No
right.
person except a natural born citizen, right there. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's Article 2, Section 1, Clause 5. No person except a natural born citizen or a citizen of the United States at the time of the adoption of this Constitution shall be eligible to the office of president. Now, for me, when I read that word for word, it's like I don't see how all these individuals could have become president. But anyway, that's the distinction there.
Well, see,
And there is a comma.
they want
There
to
is a
weasel word.
comma.
Well, they want to weasel word being a United States citizen. But go ahead, sis.
Yeah, yeah, they're falling under citizen of the United States. Exactly. So a natural born citizen is distinguished from a citizen of the United States. And by the conjunction or, I'm reading it right here. This is in my book, which is used to link different possibilities. So there's a contrast there. Either you're natural born or you're a citizen of the United States, which is a naturalized citizen after they passed the 1790 Immigration and Naturalization Act. And I think you had made a previous reference to that. But again, natural rights are not granted to a people by their government. They're not. You're born with them. You have to be the natural born people of the land. And there's only one people of this land, and that's us, indigenous Aborigines. All these other folks are foreigners, immigrants, aliens. They're from someplace else. They're not from here.
So,
Only
sis,
we are from here.
here is a conflation that people use to excuse themselves out of ignorance or illegality. Native born and natural born are not the same. And native born are any descendants of naturalized citizens now
Exactly.
born here. And that's the whole argument inside the
Exactly.
definition of American now applied to the descendants of Europeans. But go ahead, sis.
No, you're exactly, I'm agreeing and resonating with that. I expound on it in the book that to be native born, you're the descendants of naturalized citizens, to be native born. Now, Native Americans are in a whole not different group of their own. But when we look at them in the context of the truth of who they are, they themselves say that they came across the Bering Straits. They have a whole narrative of how they descend from lineage that comes from a whole nother continent. They're of most of them, a lot of them are hybrids, amalgamated individuals, but a lot of them, their phenotype is mongoloid. America and American, the indigenous people here, our phenotype is Negro Negroid phenotype, point blank, period. So they're not from here. And if they're born on this land, yes, they're native born on the land if they're in a legal status. But getting back to the illegal aliens, they're not legally in our country. They have no allegiance to this land. Their nationality and allegiance originates from wherever they came from. And nobody is trying to take that away from them. But they want to infringe on our natural born rights. And now there's a whole movement of indigenous erasure that they're trying to do to us Aborigines. It's called an indigenous erasure because we're the indigenous people of this land, and they literally are trying to erase us. Now, I want to share
And that was
something
the
else
other
from the
thing that I
book.
wanted to say when we showed the video, that section earlier from the state of Oregon, that what they're trying to initiate with this lawsuit is showing the receipts where the Urban League participated in removing what was known at the time as indigenous, whether you want to refer to them as citizens or as the people. But what it seems like you're setting up right there is the 14th Amendment and that last video that I played about that judge's ruling. Were you going to go on to that? Because all of that is
No,
dealing with the 14th Amendment.
I want to share real briefly what the OMB, how they define American Indian or Alaska Native. That's the term. And in Fed Reg Notice of 1997, they defined American Indian or Alaska Native, a person having origins in any of the original peoples of North and South America, including Central America, and who maintains tribal affiliation or community attachment. That's from OMB Fed Reg Notice, their revisions that they did in 1997. Now, the 2024 revisions, this is the revised definition. American Indian or Alaska Native, individuals with origins in any of the original peoples of North, Central, and South America, including, for example, Navajo Nation, Blackfoot Tribe of the Blackfeet Indian Reservation of Montana, Native Village of Barrow in Inuit. How do you say those
You talking about the
natives up
Inuit?
in
You talking about the Inuit, the
Inuit?
Eskimos, etc. Aleutian
Inuit.
Islands, Inuit, and Eskimo. But go ahead, sis.
Borrow Inuit, traditional government, Nome Eskimo community, Aztec, and Maya. Now you see how they expanded the category and they added in all these other little ethnic groups, but nowhere in there do they say anything about us, and that's okay. These folks can have American Indian, but I'm in the book, I'm arguing how is it that the OMB can give recognition to individuals or groups that aren't even of this land? They're not even citizens of this land. They're actual alien foreign nationals, but they're giving them recognition. And but that's the way it is. That's the AIAN category. And so they're distinguishing and enabling all these hybrid and mestizo and all these groups that want to push claim of indigeneity, and they're not even indigenous. At best, if they're born here, they're native born, but they're
But
not
but
the indigenous because they're not the aborigines of the land.
well, let's reiterate that these are people who have conquistador descendants. Most of them. They are a hybrid, as you said, between Mongoloids, Spanish, Portuguese, which we would call Chinos, and the others that came through the Trans-Pacific slave trade. But go ahead, sis. I was hoping that you would go to
Okay,
that part
so
there about
I
the
was
14th
reading.
Amendment.
Yeah, I was reading from page 244. So I'm gonna skip over here to 245 because you mentioned Biden, and I just happen to have quoted him on the next page. And this is a quote: "An unrelenting stream of immigration, nonstop. Folks like me who were Caucasian of European descent for the first time will be an absolute minority in the United States of America. Absolute minority. Fewer than 50% of the people in America from then on will be white European stock. That's not a bad thing. That's the source of our strength." And Biden, I'm quoting him from 2015 when he was vice president. He made that statement. And one more statement he made. This one is from 2024. Kamala, oh, wait. No, I can't. I can't turn that fast. Let me just read it because it's really short. Kamala and I are committed to strengthening illegal immigration, including protecting dreamers and more. So they had a policy of aiding and abetting these illegal aliens, even though it violated the laws of this land, which literally put their oaths to the Constitution up for, I don't know, for question if they were constitutionally fulfilling their offices, president and vice president. But my personal opinion is in regards to this crisis of illegal immigration and them allowing all these illegal aliens to cross over the border. And then they funded them with tax dollars. It's totally, to me, it's like borderline.
Well, it's not borderline. It is treasonous. What you
Yeah.
just shared, we know of the DREAM Act and DACA, but I really want you to go because it's on screen right there. What I showed from that
Okay.
video and the ruling of the 14th Amendment is literally the first section right there. No, 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 don't move. Don't, right there at the top.
Oh, okay.
Stop moving on the screen. Right there, what's framed there. All persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States. And we're going to circle back to what is the difference between a citizen and a subject. But finish that part there, going down from there, because that goes into the 14th Amendment that video was sharing about the ruling.
Sister
Well,
Angel, before
this,
you start,
okay, go ahead. Go ahead, please.
yep. No, I was just going to say, I have to step out now. Actually have a class that's starting or started 2 minutes ago. I want to say, Ali Bamu, I appreciate you having me, and please have me again. I hate that I have to leave right now. Sister Angel, it was a pleasure hearing and speaking with you, hearing from you and speaking with you. Blackfoot, a pleasure always.
Well, Kabir, you know you're going to have to squeeze us in your schedule of availability, my good brother. And say again your book and parting, and thank you for participating in tonight's discussion, Delineation of a Nation.
Absolutely. So the name of my book is The Sojourner's Manual. And again, my name is Ambassador Kabir. I'm an author of several books, but the book that best fits the topic of tonight that I have is The Sojourner's Manual. It's available at Walmart. It's available on Amazon and many other places, Barnes and Nobles, etc. Again, thank you for having me, and hope everybody have a good night.
Brother Kabir, thank you so very much, brother. Peace and love to you. I've got one of your books. I just got it in the mail the other day, but now I want to order the one that you just spoke on tonight. So I'm definitely going to order that one. And hopefully we'll be speaking real soon. Thank you, brother.
No problem. Much respect. Much respect. And Ali Bamu, to answer your question, I am available Saturdays and Sundays. I am wide open. During the week, I have a bunch of classes, mainly like with my daughter and then myself, Taekwondo classes that run for about an hour and a half. But other than that, weekends, I'm open.
I understand, my brother. And thank you again for your time. Peace and blessings.
Peace, my brother. Peace.
So, sister, if you will review that section that addresses the 14th Amendment, and if you are preparing to wrap up, and still people keep asking me in the chat, I don't know why they can't see. The link is pinned at the top in the chat. The link is pinned at the top on the YouTube side. So if you will review that, and I have this final video that I'd love you to chop up in, because I know it's going to gas you up about the tribes you were just talking about. But go ahead, sis. You got the floor.
Okay. So you just read that first part of the 14th Amendment. And what I go on to say here, it's right on the screen. And I just want to express to everyone that I'm coming from an Aboriginal perspective on my commentary and my analysis. And I'm seeing things in relation to us the indigenous Aborigines of this land. This is our country. And quite frankly, this is our government. And, it's kind of out of control and rogue right now. But once we step into the truth of who we are, we can get all this straightened out. So I go on to say the specific terms, all persons born in the 14th Amendment, can only pertain to indigenous Aborigines, okay? Us indigenous Negro phenotypic people of America, as all persons born and were enslaved, that term enslaved, Indian captives. We were Indian captives, prisoners of war, but that's referred to as being enslaved. So it goes on to state that based on the rule of natural law is the law of nature, okay? We are the natural born people in United States of America, point blank, period. And all these other folks who are immigrants, foreigners from other places claiming that they're natural born, they are not. They're at best are native born, okay? So the citizenship clause conferred a broad guarantee to all persons natural born or naturalized in United States and persons legally under the jurisdiction thereof, such as citizenship granted to native born biological children of legal resident alien parents. For example, United States versus Wong Kim Ark, 1898. And that last video that you played, that court case, they were referencing Wong Kim Ark. But the thing to remember about that case is Wong Kim Ark's parents, they were foreigners, but they had a legal status in this country. And that's why when Wong Kim Ark was born, he inherited his legal status from his parents, but he was native born on the land. And I'm just going to end it there.
So, Sif, if you don't just pardon me a bit for this last video. And again, if people are going to ask questions, I advise you to click the link as I'm playing this video. You want to go ahead and do that, the Instagram, and then I'll come with my video behind you.
Well, let's see if it's going to play.
I don't hear it.
I don't hear it either. I don't see where the audio is either. Doggone it.
Usually when you click on the screen, the audio is muted now until you click on it. It should be unmuted.
That's
But I
what I
don't hear.
thought.
Yeah, I don't hear any volume on it.
This brother right here, this brother, can you see my pointer? I just got to point this out. This is a very important video. These two brothers right here, these are Aborigines, they're indigenous. And I cannot recall the name. What nation are they from? Because he said they're from a nation, not a tribe.
Mattatisik or it's what turned into Massachusetts. I don't have the spelling of it because I sent it to you when I watched it earlier. And I wish that
This
you could
brother
hear.
right here is a chief.
Yeah, because he's the
a chief.
descendant of his great grandfather or grandfather that was the chief originally.
He goes back to the 1600s in his lineage. And they're on this street because they walked up, and these are those Hebrew Israelite brothers talking, and they had some type of sign going on here, and he actually saw the name of his people on their sign. So he stopped to tell them, hey, look, y'all got the name. I wish we could show this, play this sound. I don't know how to do it. I apologize to everyone. But brother right here, this chief, he was setting the record straight, and he said, we're nations. We were nations. We weren't tribes back in the day. They call them tribes today, but we're actually nations.
Well, in that regard, let me share this one about federal recognized tribes. Like I said, I know this is going to gas you up. So hold on.
All right. Let me stop sharing.
Fight against the U.S. government that you probably don't know about. Hollywood portrayals and long-held stereotypes might have taught you that this is how indigenous peoples live, or even that their form of government has something to do with an Indian princess. The truth is, Native American tribes have strong, effective, and unique tribal governments that contend with modern problems. One of the toughest modern problems some tribes face today is the fight for federal recognition. The federal government has been sued, marches have been organized, and petitions have been signed over 100,000 times. Why? Because many tribes are being denied this recognition. Federal recognition is a political status where the U.S. government recognizes a native tribe as a sovereign nation, essentially a separate legal entity similar to a state or country. This government-to-government relationship is rooted in a long history of treaties, legislation, executive orders, and the U.S. Constitution. Recognition refers to how other governments view a nation, not how a nation views itself or how it acts. Neither federal nor state governments grant sovereignty to indigenous peoples. Why does federal recognition matter, and why is it so difficult to attain?
My name is Tristan Harper, and I'm from McIntosh, Alabama.
The Moa Band of Choctaw Indians received national attention in 2024 when tribal member Tristan Harper became the 5th runner-up on American Idol.
I reckon I might play it for y'all if y'all say hope one time. Can I hear hope? Let me say it again. Can I hear hope? I reckon I'll play it for y'all.
Harper may have won the hearts of thousands across America, but the Moa Choctaw are one of the many non-federally recognized tribes. So far, they've fought for recognition using all 3 formal routes: petition, litigation, and congressional bill, and have been unsuccessful each time.
We've been here a long time, and now it's time for people to realize that we're here. Just give us the recognition that we deserve. We want the recognition as an Indian tribe. We're Choctaw Indians, and our name is Moa Choctaw.
There are hundreds of non-federally recognized tribes in the U.S. today. Tribal governments have the right to self-govern, which means they're responsible for the health, safety, and welfare of their members like a state or country, and they have the freedom to determine how to do that. This can look different for each tribe. Recognition provides more opportunities for tribal governments to exercise their sovereign rights and access funding for healthcare, childcare, and elder care. It also allows access to grants for education, housing, broadband access, economic development, and more. Access that would have a huge impact on tribal communities. The Bureau of Indian Affairs, or BIA, created a formal recognition process in 1978. Before then, tribes gained federal recognition through treaties, acts of Congress, presidential executive orders, or other federal administrative actions. Since then, less than 50 applications for federal recognition have been approved. If that sounds like a small number, that's because it is. And some non-federally recognized tribes have been seeking recognition for decades.
Recognition or BIA funding would open up a whole new avenue for us. It would be so beneficial for my people to be able to have, instead of a small clinic over there that can do for a few people, is to have a full staff here that can, someone is having a heart attack or they have a place to go. But federal recognition would also open the doors to self-sufficiency, us to be able to compete in other areas that other tribes have access to that we don't, that we're denied. You're not federally recognized. You can't apply for this grant.
But the reality of pursuing that recognition is grueling. Thousands of volunteer hours, years, or even decades of research, thousands of pages of documentation proving your indigenous ancestry, and more money than most tribes have to spare. After 10 years of writing, petitioning, and researching with the help of university professors, the Moa Choctaw sent a letter of intent to the BIA in 1983 and were denied in 1997. The Bureau of Indian Affairs cited this section of the criteria as the problem: must descend from a historical Indian tribe. The BIA required documentation to prove the tribe's existence from as early as possible, which would sometimes date back to 1789 or the first time of sustained contact. After reviewing the documents, oral histories, and research the Moa Choctaw provided, the BIA researchers determined the oral histories could not be supported by primary documentation. The BIA concluded that the two core families the tribe claimed to descend from had not been documented as American Indian, and that only 1% of the Moa Choctaw members have documented American Indian ancestry, with this ancestry coming through lines other than the two core families. Former Moa Choctaw Chief Wilford Longhair Taylor responded.
That criterion alone is particularly unfair when it's based solely on the records of white men. Applying the single criterion puts an undue burden of proof on a people whose most important genealogical source is oral history. Our history is not written on paper, it's written in stone. The gravestones of our cemeteries from 1814 to 1996 memorializing our history.
We just knew who our people were. You know, we buried them. I could take you to the cemetery where my great-grandfather was born in 1815. And I can take you where they lived, I can take you where they were buried, I can tell you who they married, I can tell you every one of their children, I can tell you their children's children, their children, all the way down to me. So we know who we are.
Non-recognized tribes are all unique with their own oral histories and genealogy, which makes meeting most of the 7 points of criteria for the federal acknowledgement process extremely challenging. Not only is it difficult to meet the criteria, some completed petitions may take up to 15 years to be processed due to a lack of resources. Critics of the recognition process say it's a complicated, one-size-fits-none approach that boils down the diversity of Indigenous peoples across the U.S. to legal fictions and cultural stereotypes about Native Americans. Subjectivity is at the bedrock of the process. And even the Government Accountability Office reported that the basis for BIA's tribal recognition decisions is not always clear.
The issue is trying to prove one's Native identity or your legitimacy. That brings up a lot of really deep-seated racist beliefs, about Native Americans as well, whether that's based on our appearance or how we should act or how we should express our culture, etc. So I think that a lot of those beliefs just then end up fueling the public attitudes towards unrecognized tribes.
One reason the Moa Choctaw have struggled to prove their Choctaw ancestry is because in 1830, the tribe defied the Indian Removal Act and stayed on their ancestral land.
We're still in Alabama, and so we're the stayers. We didn't get removed like other Choctaws got removed and sent west to the Mississippi to Oklahoma. We haven't left. We're still here. We still honor our same traditions as those who were removed to Oklahoma during the Indian Removal Act.
The 1830 Indian Removal Act forcibly displaced around 60,000 Choctaw, Cherokee, Creek, and other Southeast tribes, resulting in what would later be known as the Trail of Tears. Thousands of adults and children died of disease, malnutrition, or exposure during the 1,200-mile journey on foot.
When the treaty was signed, the Treaty of Dancing Rabbit Creek, some of our leaders signed that treaty. But one thing that it did, it said, Article 14 of that treaty said that we could stay here, not be removed. Everybody thinks that, the Trail of Tears, they got every Indian up and took them to Oklahoma. Well, we know that's not true.
The Moa Choctaw's ancestors hid in the swamps and pine barrens of South Alabama, avoiding detection and documentation for decades until their home was discovered by a timber company looking to take advantage of Alabama's pine forests.
We were a functioning little community here amongst ourselves until exposure came for our people. But we have always maintained our own identity. A lot of people didn't bother to ask. Or we didn't tell them because we didn't trust them.
A second reason is that during the first half of the 1900s, Jim Crow segregation dominated racial relations in the South. And not being Black or white, Southeastern Native Americans, like the Moa Choctaw, were left in a racial no man's land. Too afraid of forced removal to self-identify as Indian, but too afraid of Jim Crow laws to identify as Black, many who could pass as white did. And census records of Moa Choctaw descendants during this time don't seem to know how to classify them either, listing them as everything from Indian and Black to Cajun or white. This discrepancy would later cause issues for the Moa Choctaw during their petition for recognition. But the federal government isn't the only opposition non-federally recognized tribes contend with. Some tribes have contested the recognition of new tribes, questioning the validity of these groups, or expressing concerns that it could reduce federal funding for recognized tribes and increase competition in the gaming industry. In 1979, the Moa Choctaw were the first to be state recognized by the Alabama legislature, which means the state of Alabama has affirmed their identity. They are the Moa Band of Choctaw Indians. The Moa and Moa Choctaw differentiates the tribe geographically from the other Choctaw bands. Their reservation lies south of Washington County and north of Mobile County. State recognition impacts their lives by allowing them to maintain their tribal identity and cultural practices, which allow them to organize and represent themselves as a distinct community, a requirement for the BIA petition process.
To us, sovereignty puts in a position so that we can do things here on our tribal reservation. We can do things, the land that we own right now. We can build houses for our tribal members, that we can do things just like a local township, a municipality.
State recognition gives the tribe access to state-level grants, cultural preservation programs, and some federal funding through the state, but it's significantly less extensive compared to broader federal programs such as healthcare, education, and economic development opportunities that come with federal recognition status.
There are tribes out there that are not federally recognized, that have their own distinct, cohesive community, and they function, and they've been functioning well since first European contact. So we've been dealing with outsiders for a long time, and I just think it's time.
In 2022, Alabama Senator Richard Shelby reintroduced a congressional bill to extend federal recognition to the tribe, but it failed to move past committee review. Still, there may be hope for the future. Since 2015, the BIA only requires documentation of Indian ancestry back to 1900 instead of first contact. The BIA has also proposed a conditional, time-limited opportunity for denied tribes like the Moa Choctaw to re-petition for federal recognition with the updated documentation rules. The fight for federal recognition is a little known or talked about story, but it's impacting thousands of indigenous peoples in America. 80% of the Moa Choctaw community live below the poverty line today. Access to federal grants and the ability to make decisions based on the community's needs would radically change the way their tribal members live. But Native peoples aren't waiting around to be acknowledged. They assert their inherent sovereignty and right to self-governance every day by establishing governments, enforcing tribal laws, preserving their land and cultural practices, taking legal actions to protect their rights, and advocating for their interests.
Our tribal members are getting educated. They're willing to go beyond what people think that they can do. And with Tristan's recognition on American Idol proves that when you put your mind to do something, people will recognize who you are from what you do and how you do it. It's not something that someone can say, well, you just did it because someone gave it to you. No, we work for what we have. And we want people to understand that we're not asking for handouts. All we need to do is get that recognition.
When a tribe decides to petition for federal recognition, they know they're signing up for a generation-spanning challenge that could end with their tribe becoming a sovereign power in the eyes of the United States. But for many, it's not all about an outside government recognizing their sovereignty. It's about acknowledging a people's identity. The indigenous experience today is not an antiquated stereotype. For many, the experience has been steeped in this arduous fight for acknowledgement. All that tribes like the Moa Choctaw ask is that their culture, heritage, and self-governance be appropriately evaluated when the U.S. is reviewing their petition.
I'm a Choctaw Indian. I am a member of the Moa Band of Choctaw Indians, but we're not going anywhere. And we're going to be here. We're going to fight until the last breath is in my body, my son, my cousins. We're not going anywhere. We know who we are.
Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to PBS Origins so you don't miss a single episode of In the Margins.
Okay, sis.
Yes, my brother.
Well, where do you want to go with that? And again, in the chat, pinned at the top on the YouTube side, if you have any questions, please click on the link. We're probably going to be wrapping up. I know it's been a long time for you, sis, but where do you want to go from here?
Well, in response to that video, I think
And
it
by
was
the
put
way, in
together
your
well.
response, whitewashing, blood quantum, and what is true bloodline lineage. But go ahead, sis.
Um, First of all, I just wanted to say I think the video was put together well. It was well produced. I disagree with some of the context of the video, and I wasn't familiar with that band of Choctaw. Um, I've never heard of them before, but everyone has the right to self-identify. We all have the right to self-identify. And so my focus and my attention is on our rights as the indigenous Aborigines of America to self-identify. And it seems as though all these other groups are dismissing our existence and have been dismissing our existence, and we just can't have it anymore. We have to stand on the truth of who we are. And our ancestry is the oldest ancestry of this land. If you're not Negroid phenotype, how can you claim that you're an Aborigine? Those tribes are not claiming to be Aborigines, they're claiming to be Indians. And as our brother Kabir articulated, and also as I expound in my book, Indian is a political status. And so they're going to pick and choose who they want to recognize as Indians. And if that group wants to continue to work hard and fight, like he was saying, for that recognition, then, they're in their lane. They're doing what they do. And they're self-identifying as they identify. But
Well, this
like I
bleaching
said,
process, which I think starts with the five civilized tribes. First of all, Seminole, Cimarron, whatever you want to call it, is not an actual confederation. It is by default being referred to as such. But the civilized process created Choctaw. So as you saw the spelling, Choctaw, which is not Shawta, which is
right,
Chta.
right.
So that's just one example. Creek as well is the designation. The Muskogee was one of the tribes in the Confederation, but the creeks are where our ancestors inhabited for the purpose of interacting with waterways. And then we know Cherokee is the most infamous of the criminal activity of civilization. The requirement was to make a constitution, and they're the only ones that did all three, convert to Christianity, and create what we call an alphabet or syllabary. Now, what is
Mhm.
Cherokee actually? Again, any of these modified terms are a confederation or a conglomeration of tribes that were coerced to convert or die, because that's the whole process of being civilized. And these are the only civilized tribes to presume that all others are uncivilized. And then let's deal with blood quantum and the one drop rule that gets flipped on the American known as the Negro. They're going to tell you an African jigaboo makes you a slave, but one Pocahontas made the entire House of Burgess, the criminals in Virginia, all claim ancestry through the racial declaration of Walter Ashby Plecker, who did the Racial Integrity Act of 1924. So this is only a century old where this whitewashing has taken effect, sis.
Mhm.
So
Absolutely.
when we're not dealing with the diabolical nature, and we don't even get into the Dawes roll and the $5 frauds, but these amalgamations, hybrid, racially miscegenated individuals, they are Mongoloid, Asiatic, Caucasoid, supposed European conquistador and my spin bastard children. They
Oh
all
my
want to
goodness.
claim a melanated grandmother, which is interesting because that's back to your argument about matrilineal heritage, but they never mention Paw Paw, which is the rapist. But go ahead, sis, cook.
No, I'm not gonna badmouth the Moa. Like I said, they're in their lane, they're doing what they're doing, and they're self-identifying. And even the rest of these Native Americans, however, I do I condemn them. I condemn them
Well, hold
all for
up, sis. So if they're,
dismissing us
but
Aborigines.
hold on. If
I
they
do
are
condemn them for that.
delusional, first of all, most of their supposed stories, and this is this oral history that they supposedly refer to in that video, is from an orphan child. Now, even if you go back to the Indian boarding schools, who were the Indians that were used as a template for the curriculum of these boarding schools for these orphaned children? And what orphan can ever tell you who he or she was or where they came from?
Right.
I mean, just a question, but go ahead, sis.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, if these natives are not speaking the truth on us Aborigines, then they're complicit in the genocide that our people has been under for generations. The genocide against us is just normalized. It's
But see,
it's
that's
so
the whole point about
normalized that
erasure.
nobody thinks nothing of it. Our erasure and eradication as a people, and they want us to be black from Africa somewhere, that is so normalized that nobody thinks nothing of it. But now that we're standing on our truth and we're bringing it all to the forefront, those natives are going to have to put some respect on that. And until they do that, I feel that they're all complicit in our erasure and our eradication. They're just as complicit. So they need to come correct. But
So
I'm not going to
delineation.
badmouth them, but I
I
am going to
I I
condemn
I,
them
I
for
got you,
dismissing.
sis. You don't have to do that. Let me fall in the breach here. Again, the delineation is defining, describing the boundaries and what is an American. I'm going to say it again. My message is simple. Identity crisis is a thing. It is real. There are the Americans and those who are not, which is all United States citizens, are not American. I don't care nothing about this hyphen stuff. A Japanese American, a Mongolian American, German American, Australian American, whatever precedes that hyphen, you cannot have two nouns. So has American become an adjective to describe all other nations on the planet, sis? That's a rhetorical
No,
question, but
no,
here
no.
again,
But I would like to share my screen.
go ahead,
Oh,
sis.
are we wrapping up?
It's on you. This is, I mean,
I see brother Big
I
Dog.
see Big Dog sneaking in, but he's
Yeah,
over there
I just wanted
supposedly
to
a pool sharking.
share with one last reference to our oh my goodness, am I doing this correct? Let's see.
But while you're getting yourself situated in bearings, what is the reference that you're talking about?
Okay, this reference going back to Andrew Jackson, and because they did mention Indian removal in that video. And so right here on page 284, I'm stating that President Jackson's forced removal of Aborigines, because some of our people were removed as well. Not all, but some. But
At
for
at,
those
at
who were,
last studies, it's best 10%. But go ahead, sis.
okay, we were removed from our ancestral homelands. And that was obviously an unconstitutional act. Okay. He violated his oath of office to support and defend the Constitution by not upholding truth and justice for the natural born people of America, us Aborigines. And I also cite in here excerpts from speeches that Andrew Jackson gave, his State of the Union speeches, where he literally was speaking about our people, and he described us as Aborigines, or he termed us as Aborigines. He didn't use the word Indian. He said Aborigines. But anyway, getting back to this, his hubris, arrogance, and genocidal actions against Aborigines precisely demonstrated how fraud vitiates everything, everything. And so I go into some other things about that Indian Removal Act, but I want to move down here so we can wrap up. The activist author, James Meredith, this elder, he shared his oral tradition of how Aborigines were forced. And we all know who James Meredith is, right? Right, bro?
Yes, the one
James
that
Meredith from,
walked across the nation and was entered into the University of Mississippi. James
yes,
Meredith.
yes,
Go ahead.
James
Go
Meredith.
ahead.
So he's his oral tradition of how Aborigines were forced from their southern United States ancestral homelands, trafficked onto southern plantations during Indian removal. The trafficking of indigenous Aborigines in the United States supplied a free labor pool to antebellum southern plantations. In the following quotation, Mr. Meredith was very succinct in describing President Jackson's federal government action of Indian removal. Quote, Andrew Jackson was the most effective white supremacist in history. He not only took all the Indian land east of the Mississippi River, more importantly, he set up the groundwork having most of the Indians reclassified as Black. Okay, so I could go on and read some of these other things, but I think I just want to end it there.
Right under what you
And
were reading, you said something
one,
about there was something right under what you were reading about Andrew Jackson's State of the Union.
yeah,
The last
yeah,
thing that
here
you
it is.
just read from.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, he stated right here in 1829, the immigration should be voluntary. For it would be as cruel as unjust to compel the Aborigines to abandon the graves of their fathers and seek a home in a distant land. But they should be distinctly informed that if they remain within the limits of the states for away of the states, they must be subject to their laws. And the states he was talking about is the
Was
state of
Georgia and
Georgia
Alabama.
and the state of Alabama. And state of governments are, remember, those are de facto governments. They're artificial entities, okay, that administer their administrations. They're not the sovereign state. Even though they say they are in law, they are not.
And we
So I
never
want
do address state citizenship. You know, that's another thorn in the side for me.
yeah,
But
well, we can get on
go
that
ahead,
in
sis. Go ahead,
another
sis. What about
episode.
the after the
But
creek ended? And let's not forget again, Cherokee Nation versus Georgia and Worcester versus Georgia both were in 1832, ruled by the Supreme Court that the sovereignty of our ancestors should not be impinged nor infringed upon. And his
mm-hmm.
response was, I'd like to see you enforce that.
Force
But that
it.
is what a
Right.
criminal outlaw would say.
A rogue. Yeah. Okay. So this is another quotation from his State of the Union. Submitting to the laws of the states and receiving, like other citizens, protection in their persons and property, they, talking about us Aborigines, will ere long become merged in the mass of our population. So that was forced assimilation, and their population of naturalized and native born.
And that's what my
So,
question still hangs about. You can read that last paragraph right there with Meredith right next. But that is
okay,
the whole point of whitewashing. And how did a Negro become a Mongoloid? But go ahead, sis, with Mr. Meredith's statement.
right. So wrapping up what our beloved elder James Meredith, Mr. Meredith exposed the fraud of President Andrew Jackson and Major General Thomas Hines. Jackson and Hines fought together in the Indian Wars to vitiate Aborigines of their natural born citizen rights and extinguish Aboriginal title to their indigenous homeland inheritance of America. Jackson and Hines fought to denationalize indigenous Negroid phenotypic people of their constitutional natural born rights. The military removal of Aborigines from their ancestral homelands condemned them as prisoners of war and subjugated them to Black enslavement in the antebellum Southern plantation system. And here's the last quote of our elder James Meredith. Quote, after the defeat of the Creek Indians, he marched thousands of captured Creek men, women, and children back to Mississippi to be slaves on his vast plantation and sell to others. And those of you who are from Mississippi know, I think Hines is a county. Isn't
Yep,
that like a county?
Hinds.
Yes, that
And
was his
Mississippi, let's not forget,
plantation.
yeah, Jackson, Mississippi, and the water problem.
Yes,
Vicksburg as a major battlefield during Confederate revolt, rebellion, whatever you
yes.
want to call it. But yeah, go ahead, sis. Whatever else you want to
No,
wrap
that's
up
from
with.
the book. I'm wrapping it up, quoting our elder,
That last
James
paragraph
Meredith.
there says words document the enslavement. Go ahead and wrap up with that last
Oh, you want to
paragraph.
wrap up on that? Okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Meredith's words document, document the enslavement of Aboriginal American people misidentified as Blacks during Indian removal. Another form of documentation on the complexity involving enslaved Blacks is found by qualitative analysis of WPA slave narratives. The data analyzed reveals that over 60% of antebellum enslaved Blacks were non-Christians. This analysis deconstructs the long-held Black slave church model as a powerful tool for proving Black agency. A large segment of Black agency has been de-Christianized and leaves a more complex picture for historians interpreting antebellum slave religion. And so I go on to argue that if we weren't Christians before they were forcing and coercing our people into enslavement, then doggone it, we weren't Christians during that time of captivity, and we certainly weren't after. And I go on to reference how the whole Christianity phenomenon came really amongst our people during Reconstruction. But let's land it there. I think that's enough. I thank everyone. Thank you so much to Big Dog, and to you, Alabama, to the brother Kabir, the brother Chief Blackfoot. Thank you all so much, Yakoki Lawa. And I just really appreciate this time. And I hope we can make this a regular weekly platform.
Well, in closing, sis, I want you to hear this lovely queen of ours, this future clan mother, Mayday, as we close our ranks.
Is there audio? Are you there, Alabama?
Yes, I'm on one last thing before we go, Angel. Can you hear me
Okay.
now?
Yes, I didn't hear the song though. I really wanted to hear it.
Yeah, everybody else heard it. So I heard it in my headphones. Was there something else you were trying to share? I see you on screen there.
Yeah, I just want to share. This is my book. Who Are You Calling Black? A Demand to End the Genocide of Aboriginal Americans. And you can find this book on Amazon. I encourage everyone to get a copy, read it. Let's get on the same page. Let's understand who we are as the natural born people of America. And let's stand on our truth. Yo.
Well, my sister, we will end with one last anthem from our good brother, the enemy's public. I'm sorry he and his wife will not be able to attend. And thank you again for all that you shared, my sister. Peace and love.
Peace and love. Yakokilawa.
Y'all thought I was done. Now we just getting started. This is a tease introduction to the bass and the soul. From the east coast to the west, watch the movement unfold. First I like to give thanks to the family for the growth. But this is what happens when we spread love and increase the rank. Truth is the oath. Old dude on the mic, wisdom in his voice like a scroll. Wild savage on the beat, taking back control of the whole scope. Nate Bad dropping science, Aboriginal Israelite knowledge in the flow. Roger W steady building straight smoke, keep the fire low, watch it glow. From the ground up, we manifested this unity, ain't no surprise. Ay. King of higher self, speaking peace, seeing through material lies. Ay. Got his dear fluff, bringing light, jazzy with the harmony and the vibe. Blending the hill in the mix, ensuring that the whole collective stays alive. Yeah, this is the camaraderie 2.0. Louder than before, we gon' let them know. Slamming down the door, demanding, slamming down the door. Demanding some more, promise some more. Live and learn on the track, every lesson paid for with sweat and with tears. Yeah, we ain't just making noise, we conquering the fears of the past years. Yeah, camaraderie, family, synergy, that's the only way to be. From the concrete jungle to the highest peak. Yeah, we set the people free. Yeah. Used to walk the streets alone. Now my squad is thick and deep. Every single member holds a code. Promise says we gotta keep. From the cypher to the studio, the energy is pure, the intention is clean. Pushing back against the darkness, showing them what a true collective means. No fake handshakes, no backstabbing, just genuine respect and loyalty. We sharing resources, sharing knowledge, building up a royalty. They try to divide us, try to conquer, but the foundation's concrete now. We elevate the frequency, watching every seed we plant and start to sprout. Yeah, this is the camaraderie 2.0. Louder than before, we gon' let them know. Slamming down the door, then it's slamming down the door. Demanding something more, demanding something more. Live and learn on the track, every lesson paid for with sweat and with tears. Yeah, we ain't just making noise, we conquering the fears of the past years. Yeah, camaraderie, family, synergy, that's the only way to be. From the concrete jungle to the highest peak. Yeah, we set the people free. Check the blueprint, check the motive, check the heart behind the sound. This ain't manufactured hype, this is movement on sacred ground. We unified, energized, ready for the next level leap. Planting seed of consciousness while the competition sleeps. Camaraderie 2.0, that's the title, that's the truth we hold inside. We ride together, we fight together, nowhere left for us to hide. Peace, yeah. Peace to the family. Yeah, we in this together.
Our struggle is constantly and continuously against the oppressor and against all in us, which is in contradiction to our values and the choice we've made.
We out, we out, we out.